Hello, 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 everybody. I am your androgynous AI game show host from the future, Caster. And who is this with me?
It's me, Maru de Cinco, hero of hope and tomboy of tomorrow. Thank you so much for having me, Caster.
No worries.
Hello.
And this is the Neon Caster Twitch channel. Welcome, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Please do, somebody in chat let us know that our audio levels are good and clean and sexy. I mean, they usually are. Never scuffed. The show is perfect, you understand. But I need my audience just to confirm for my own ego that audio is perfect. Super sexy audio indeed. See?
That is good.
You know it. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone, joining me this evening. We have a bit of a melange of people joining. We have some regulars. We have some from the One Shot Podcast Network, who I do bits and pieces for on the Skyjacks podcast. And I do believe we have a handful of people from Maru's part of the internet. Hello, Comiburn. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
So, for the people who do not know you, Maru, why don't you tell them about yourself and all the fabulous things that you do?
Thank you so much. I am a... hi, Comi, by the way, sorry. I am a variety streamer, but generally I focus on model kit building. I do a lot of Gunpla building streams, and currently I'm working on a custom project making a model kit figure of VTuber Maru, who I'm a huge fan of. Mm-hmm. And generally I do little bits of everything. Recently I've been doing like a lot of, it's just like the huge focus of the channel recently has just been Gunpla again. Mm-hmm. But I also take like some diversions into like video games. Like, I do a bunch of, like, mecha video games, like Super Robot Wars. I did Shadow of the Colossus recently. Mm-hmm. And under normal circumstances, I would also be doing, like, art and graphic design and singing streams. But lately, I've been, like, really swamped with, like, real-life stuff. So I would say, like, generally speaking, I am a makers and crafting content creator. Just because Gunpla kind of became my main thing. Top 2% makers and crafting in Twitch last year. So, you know, pretty proud of that. I'm also like a tokusatsu themed VTuber, so think Kamen Rider or think Power Rangers, and I have like a superhero suit, but I don't have a model for it. And generally speaking, I am a tomboy punker with a lot of dumb life stories and a love for old science fiction and a love for Eurovision.
I know, right? Oh my god.
Because I'm gay, okay? I'm gay.
Gay Christmas, gay World Cup. I've heard it described both those ways. Perfect. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's kind of difficult, right? Because we used to say in Ireland, when I lived in Ireland, we used to say that Pride was gay Christmas because Dublin Pride used to be great, and now
Pride's just corporate bullshit, so we take to Eurovision instead.
Well, Dublin Pride was not corporate bullshit for much longer than other prides, and then it became corporate bullshit. So fuck Dublin Pride, and Eurovision is where we live now. That's what
we've claimed it. We've claimed it. Actually, it's quite. We're good. I'm going to talk about this first because I want to get this out of the way. Like historically, the queerness in Eurovision has been subtext, but this year, the number of people, both in the audience and actually performing members, carrying pride flags, fucking sick. Hell yeah.
Fantastic. Love to see it.
You know, considering we're both bound to Turf Island, talking about one of the biggest televised events of this year, basically being staffed by, watched by, and celebrated with queer people from Baseline is just so good.
Oh, yeah.
So good. Stay mad, weirdos. Stay mad.
Absolutely stay mad. I had some friends go from Glasgow. I would have gone myself if it was in Glasgow. Honestly, it's just the travel is very stressful for me nowadays. But like, I had a friend. I was the day before Eurovision. I went to the opera, and my friend I was gonna go with, who actually like had bought the tickets. He was like he was sick that day. He couldn't make it, and I was like I was trying to find out if I could find somebody to go with. I was gonna see Carmen, by the way, which is my favorite opera.
Ooh, cool.
And yeah, it was great. And I went. I ended up going on my own because nobody was available. But I messaged one of my friends, and she was like, "Oh, mate, no, sorry, I'm in Liverpool. I'm at Eurovision." And the Jedward were there, the pride of Ireland. Jedward, 7th place in 2011.
That's pretty good, to be honest.
We don't need to talk about their placement in 2012. All we need to talk about 2012 is that they were robbed because Waterline is and will always be a banger.
So. We may be talking about people being robbed today. We'll see, but yes, people attending it. Being in the UK this year was such a big deal. I mean, you know, I'll ask quickly. What kind of Eurovision fan are you? Do you just tune in on the finals day? Are you like watching the semi-finals? Are you like from jump seeing who's being announced and tuning in to like the local talent competitions to see which country is sending what? How deep in are you?
You know, like a lot of things in my life, it varies. I'm a very, I'm a bit of a capricious person. So like my passions kind of come and go for everything. So, it really depends. I think before the big Pando, it was a bit more common that I would get like, okay, I'm gonna like watch maybe one of the semis, and maybe on the night I'm gonna have a party or go to a party, and we'll have bingo cards and stuff like that. And then the Pando happened. Obviously, everything in disarray. Over the Pando, I watched it with friends on call, of course, which is, you know, as it was a style at the time.
We watched one together.
We did, and and I watched one with you, of course, last year. The final where I was molding because I had a lot of technical problems that were very stupid. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I still feel bad about it. This is only our second collab, and I feel a bit guilty.
Sometimes those streams happen. I'm touching all the wood that my like non-corporeal hands can reach.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, when I lived in Ireland, I got into Eurovision when I lived in Ireland. This is because I lived in Ireland before Scotland and before that Argentina. In Argentina, people like I didn't know about Eurovision growing up, but we have. I don't know if we have anything equivalent, but we have a lot of stuff that is like the same vibe.
TV talent show stuff.
Which is why my mother, for example, hates Eurovision. Because she grew up very working class and being dragged to stuff that was like, imagine the cheapest shoestring version of Eurovision in the 60s in Uruguay, and that's kind of what you got. And so she hates the cheesiness, she hates all of that, you know. Anyway, I love it because I am gay and camp and stupid, and I love stupid shit. Stupid is a compliment for me, by the way, like 99% of the time.
Oh, sure,
like,
sure.
It's like my favorite, my catchphrase recently has become, that is so stupid, I love it. So, because I am dumb and no thoughts head empty, girls, that's where I live. So, so in Ireland, like when I got into, like at first I was like, oh, I don't get it. This is really stupid, blah, blah, blah. And I think for a while I didn't get it because I have a confession to make to you, Caster.
Oh.
I used to be a hipster.
Goodness.
I know.
Goodness.
I know.
Oh, with the tears too. Dang.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry for the person I was.
You're in a safe space. We can understand and take care of you here.
Thank you. Anyway, so I was a hipster. I was very, very snobby about music. And then I came out and I learned to like fucking relax and enjoy shit. I've had a constant process. My adult life has been an entire process of learning to relax and re-enjoy things that I used to enjoy. So, I learned to just like love Eurovision. I understood the appeal, and I think really my Eurovision. Wait, was it 2011 or 2012 or 2010 when Jedward first went to Eurovision?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Oh, 2011. Okay. It was the one with lipstick. Yeah. So that was not my first Eurovision, but it was like the first one that I was like super pumped about. And I remember watching it in a pub in Dublin with my friends and being sad, being legitimately gutted. Sorry. being legitimately gutted that that Jedward didn't place higher, but they placed pretty high. They placed top 10. So, and then being legitimately gutted the next year when they went again and they placed like, I don't know, 20 something. They were like very, very bottom, lower end, and I was like, man, Waterline is a much better song than Lipstick. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? But yeah, so for ages I was like, yeah, maybe I'll watch a semi, maybe not. But I've always watched the final somehow. But this year, what happened was that it kind of passed me by because I'm so busy right now juggling streaming with uni and work, and so it was really. It just totally slipped my mind. Sorry, I need to drink some water.
No, you're good. Take your time. While you're taking a sip.
There you go.
It was actually quite interesting how your like experience with Eurovision sort of mirrored mine, but not quite. I watched in my first like properly sit down and watching was in 2010. I was like, or it's funny. So the UK historically, we're going to talk a little bit about the history, and I'll talk about this like super briefly. So initially there was no big five. Everybody had to qualify to get in, and over time there were not that many entries. But it was resulting in a circumstance when more of Eastern Europe was joined Eurovision and started participating, and they started winning and knocking out like Western European countries quite early. But it was the Western European countries that happened to be giving the most money to keeping the show running. They were really mad that they were paying lots of money and then losing because they weren't submitting their A game. So they changed the rules and made sure that there would be the big five of the UK, France, Spain, Germany, and Italy would always get through to the finals every year.
I think I knew this at some point, but I forgot. And let me just say, that is wow.
I mean, being salty that you're losing so much, you make a rule that you always have to go through to the finals is very funny. But as
it is very funny, but at the same time, this is coming from the countries that invented Napoleonic France and the British Empire and the Spanish colonization of the Americas and fascism.
Yeah, so, telling, just a little bit.
You know, just saying. Just throwing it out there. Sore losers, a lot of them. But
on the flip side of that is that after a while, because they kept immediately qualifying, the UK in particular got very blasé about it because they didn't need to try. They would always be in the finals. Which resulted in this weird paradigm where they would submit acts that locally we don't think are particularly good, and then get mad when we do poorly. Like, pick one. You can't be both of these things.
No, you can't.
So it was a really interesting situation that last year where we had Sam Ryder, who was somebody who genuinely wanted to be there as a song, not my personal jam, but was really well liked and already had an established music career, at least on TikTok, prior to performing, and then did really well. So this is now in a circumstance where this year, I definitely think a combination of that, where the UK, where everybody automatically discounted as never doing particularly well, and it being a collaboration between the Ukraine and the UK this year, since the Ukraine couldn't host it, everybody really tried this year, quite specifically. And that's definitely for the best. Definitely for the best.
I have a thing to say about Sam Ryder. I have to be
sure. Go for it.
I have to be honest with you. I mean, I didn't like it last year or this or I didn't like it last year, and this year his song. I don't know if it was the same song. I don't really care. The halftime one that he had with the disabled dance troupe. As a song, I found it pretty offensive. Because it's what a lot of disabled activists call inspiration porn, which is the thing where you parade disabled people. Like a lot of the times, it's like physically disabled people, like people that are missing a limb or have lost a limb, or wheelchair users, and you parade them. It's like, oh, you know, we can overcome. You know, look at all these people who are inspired, and it's like, and it kind of objectifies disabled people and turns them into like inspiration for able people, rather than human beings. And I found it pretty gross personally for this year. I was like, it's gross, and the song wasn't even good. So what's even the point, in my opinion?
Oh yeah, it's been that entire medley going. When's Deathy Frere showing up? He's the man I want to see. But yes, my initial starting with Eurovision 2010, because prior to that, with the UK passively, even though I hadn't watched it yet because I was still, under 18, I was still a kid, and hearing that Eurovision was bad and camp and not worth anybody's time, and assuming that I would not be the massive homo that I am today, being like, oh, Eurovision is so gay, why would anybody be interested in that? With the Apollo with the gift of prophecy flinging a dodgeball at my head.
Cassandra yelling in the background.
So I was I was sitting down with my university's newspaper, and we were live blogging that year, 2010. Paula Selling and OV Playing with Fire was my favorite song from that year. I have a little playlist of all the Eurovision bullshit that I enjoy. I might link it in chat later. But sitting there and watching it and being like, oh my god, I was very drunk by the end of it, but I was like, student, our livers could take it. Before I digitized my liver, it was in a position to, and I was like, oh my god, I'm actually really enjoying these songs, and not in a, oh, this is so camp and I'm enjoying it ironically kind of way. No, countries that aren't the UK genuinely interested in sending their best acts who make good music and share it with other people. So I am, and still am, and will always be a music hipster and a music snob. And I love Eurovision because they genuinely mean I get to listen to songs and genres that I wouldn't listen to otherwise. And I find that really exciting every year.
Oh yeah, no, that is true. You just reminded me, I think I actually started Eurovision earlier because you just unlocked a memory of mine talking about live blogging. I think I was already into it before Jedward. I think Jedward were like the real kind of thing. I was like, okay, now I'm going to start watching the semis and stuff. I think I started watching it in 2008 or 9 when I came out in 2008. And it was 8 or 9, probably 9. But the memory that I've unlocked is that in 2010, I was traveling through America. I took 3 weeks to travel. I was all over the place, and mainly going to like LGBT, let's just say alternative LGBT events. And I was at this big gathering in Denver, Colorado. Now, I was traveling back then with, I believe, I think it was like either an EAEA PC, or I had one that was like an Android tablet that could plug into a keyboard. Doesn't matter. And we were at this like it was this like big conference, queer conference, and I was like there in the hotel. There were loads of LGBT people from all over the place selling zines and having big political discussions and stuff like that. And I'm there with all those punk queers and whatever. And I was like, oh, Eurovision is happening now. It was like middle of the day. Can't remember where it was that year. And I put it on because I was able to connect to the Wi-Fi and stream it. And I was like, oh, have you guys ever heard of Eurovision? And it's all these Americans, and they're like, oh, no, we haven't. And I put it on, and they're like, okay, we've never. All of them were like, literally, like 3 people said, I've never seen this before, but it's the best thing I've ever seen, and I'm gonna write down what it's called.
Getting people along for the ride.
Yeah. They were like, holy shit, this absolutely rocks. So yeah, I just remember that memory of like randomly introducing a bunch of American queer punks to Eurovision when I was at a big gathering.
Perfect. I know that I've turned at least 2 birthday parties I've attended into Eurovision watching parties, where incidentally I've been like, oh, it's on, let's watch it. Yeah. And then one of those was, I think, a year where Conchita versed one with Rise Like a Phoenix, which, to be honest, it was a group full of queers anyway, and my gay mentor is the person whose birthday it was, so to be honest, it all kind of tied up very, very nicely. But the reason why we're doing this, well, multiple reasons, because we didn't I wasn't able to do the live stream with Maru because I was actually at Eurovision for the 2 weeks, working there as a member of the media operations team. Because
I was pogging. I was doing pog.
Oh, I got the pog taste for sure. Yeah. Surprise. I think Maru did a tweet being like, "Oh, do I want to live stream it this year?" And I was like, "Oh, I would love to join it with you, but I have a special commitment during that time." And I figured like the subtext of me highlighting that it was a special commitment relating to Eurovision would suggest what I was doing without me posting about it, because I didn't think I could really post that I was working on it.
I didn't think that at the time. Didn't realize it was like a wink.
Mm-hmm. So when later on I was like, hey, we should do a collab stream where we go over it, since we did that last year and had a fun time, and I can talk about my experience working on it. And Mara was like, what? Hold on.
Okay, I have an important question. As someone that was a gay in Ireland for many years, did you get to meet Graham?
I did not get to talk with Graham. I encountered Graham passively across the period of time. I will temper everybody's expectations now. So my job as media operations was to ferry journalists, the media, to and from the locations where they were supposed to be, and then otherwise make sure that they had all the amenities that they needed, that they could connect to the internet and all that kind of jazz, book meeting rooms so they could interview people. Which meant ultimately my job was a lot of important standing around. So being on the interview room booking desk for a shift, or guiding everybody to the media conference room and then standing on the stairs just outside of it to make sure that the media didn't wander off into the like waiting rooms for the countries and things like that. And none of that is exciting. I'm sorry. But the thing is, though, a decent number, at least one person of my team who was on media ops were like Eurovision super fans. One of them had been to, like, literally booked tickets to watch the finals of the last 4 or 5 Eurovisions, and had worked on Junior Eurovision last year.
Wow.
So
amazing.
Big fan. Knew a whole bunch of people in the industry and knew some of the talent even, right? And so they kind of put him in positions where if anybody would be interacting with the talent or guiding them from A to B, he would be doing it, which a souchon, a slight taste of sour grapes while I'm standing on the stairs and making sure that nobody wonders where they shouldn't. He's just like guiding Loreen around and then going to the exclusive after party on the turquoise carpet. And you know, I'm not going to dwell on it. The first week was pretty rough for that reason, because I was like, wait, hold on. I've paid a lot of money so I can be at a hotel to actually do this, right? And all I'm getting in return is standing around. Hold on. Did I just get robbed? And then in the latter week, when they were actually doing the live shows and everybody in the media room is like watching on the gigantic jumbotron of the performances and watching like Austria's TV network, who they've sent here, get absolutely hyped for who the hell is Edgar. That's great. That feeling is actually really, really cool. It was basically the largest Eurovision party I have ever been in that kind of way. And that was really neat. And there were a handful of times where I did, you know, I got to, on separate occasions, speak to Belgium's performer. And Gustaph, thank you. And the Vogue dancer, actually. But we'll get into that. So there'll be little bits, and as a result, because I was kind of like, when I realized that I had got the place to work on it, because I had to apply, there was like a whole bunch of people trying to get on this thing, and I'm like, I don't know how much I need to study for my specific job, so I want to make sure I go in like not looking like the least competent person in the room. So I spent some weeks listening to I think Who the Hell is Edgar is the first song I had heard of this set this year, but I had a whole notebook filled with details on the songs, on the performers, what they were doing before, did they have a music career, is this their first, all that kind of stuff in advance. I was like a proper little nerd studying for this kind of thing. I got super into it, and I think that was neat to do. I'm not doing that again. I think for future years I will definitely tune into the semi-finals because those are quite exciting. But I don't think I will be as in as I was this year. But let's not beat around the bush. We have a list. I asked Maru to select her top 5. And I selected my top 5 that didn't overlap with hers. And we're going to be kind of alternating through those and then talking about the winner, who wasn't part of our top 5, so that's maybe telling.
I think she was good.
She was good, but not part of my top 5.
She was good. And you know, to be completely shallow here, girls got abs. I'm weak. I'm gay.
Friend of the show, Ruben, when she won, posted in my Discord saying this is a win for MILFs everywhere. So your feeling is shared. Your feeling is shared. But to start off, in no particular order, just making sure that we alternate so we can kind of take points on our feelings. Czechia.
Yeah, let me. So for each of these, because I tend to have bad memory, I'm gonna bring them up briefly in on YouTube for myself, just so I get just so I remember.
I was preparing to do this, and then I was like, oh no, I don't want to get thrown in jail. So there is not going to be any tunes.
Yeah. Sadly, I was hoping that I would see the. Oh wait, do they have a playlist for the grand? Because I wanted to get the footage from the grand final.
Yeah. Let me go and find that for everyone, because then if I do that, then everybody can.
Because they should have a playlist for the final. Yeah, grand final performances. Here it is. Here it is.
Make sure that is available. Can you would you mind posting that in the chat for the people at home as well? That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Much appreciated. But yes,
that should be the playlist link for all of the acts for the. Wait, or is that just Loreen? No, it starts with Loreen, but it is all the acts
because it's
in the final.
In the order of winners, I guess. But
got it. Okay, so we said Czechia.
Yeah, Czechia, my sister's crown.
Okay, let me look at it. Just because I wanna. Because at the time when you asked me, it was very fresh, and so I remember it very clearly. But now
the time has faded a little bit. Yeah.
It's been a week, so
no worries.
A lot has happened this week.
While you're refreshing yourself, I'll talk a little bit about Czechia. And this is me reading my notes that I wrote down in advance, so you can hear my super nerd energy. A 6-person all-female band led by Patricia Knok. Very K-pop style production, right down to there being a rap verse in the middle. I wrote these notes. Based on the kind of like music videos and stuff that they released before the live. I definitely recommend watching the specific music video for this, because their makeup and costuming is really cool. Has like a big Tim Burton dark whimsical fantasy kind of energy that the live staging super does not have, and I was kind of sad about it.
Yeah.
But I picked this one specifically because I was really kind of caught by the K-pop energy of this particular band. I think the 2 big themes, or 3 big themes, there will always be people who are inspired by who won last year. There'll be people inspired by the big social media trend in music, and then there'll be people inspired by the global trend in music. And at the moment, obviously, the big musical trends are in the realms of what's being performed on TikTok. We'll see that a lot of performers actually in this lineup had previous TikTok careers, and there were at least 3 performances across this that I can think of that were inspired by K-pop, and I think Czechia's Vesna is the name of the band, for those who want to look it up. Really were inspired by.
I will admit I am someone that doesn't. I don't know what the trends are in anything except the VTuber scene anymore.
Fair.
Sometimes in anime, and in some. And in many ways in like TV and in some other things, but I don't like music is something that I've been like as a general thing of like keeping up with like the trends and what's happening and new bands and stuff like that. I have not done that in possibly 15 years. Since I stopped, basically because like I had to let go of all of that because like because I was, as I said, a hipster, and it was extremely toxic as a scene, and I had to, and then I became a punk, and then I was like, oh, the only music I care about aside from Eurovision and J-pop, the only music I care about is the queer and punk music and whatever is playing at the basement of this one pub where all the punks go, and some of my friends make extremely noisy nonsense hardcore. And it's not like I was super into that genre, but it was like what the people around me were listening to and making. So,
No, I get you.
I am, but yeah. But going back to this, I want to say like one of the things kind of before I go into like, well, I mean, I liked Czechia. And Vesna had a fun vibe to them, real sorority vibe with the real kind of like, with the sort of like unified look kind of thing, and it was really good. I love the huge braids, fantastic.
When they did the little spin, and the braids are swinging behind them, it's so cute.
It was kind of wild. And no, it was like really nice. But generally speaking about Eurovision this year, like for me, the big thing for me with Eurovision this year was that I felt like, there's two main sides to Eurovision for me, which are like the staging, how exciting is the staging, and exciting can be anything from really good, really well produced to just like absolutely ridiculous. Like exciting covers a big thing. The worst thing for me a Eurovision act can be is boring.
Yes.
That's the thing. Which is why I hate ballads in Eurovision. Love ballads outside of Eurovision. Hate them in Eurovision because they don't tend to be done interestingly.
I don't want to be a soldier.
Yeah. So,
he's a good singer, but oh my god, what a bland ballad that was.
So the other thing is, of course, is the music good? And for me to like a Eurovision act, the song doesn't have to be great. It has to be, they have to have personality as an act. That's for me the most important thing. And if the song is on top of that is good, brilliant. Jedward is perfect. They have some nice production, but their songs are also slightly scratchily, cheaply produced at times. Like they have some bits that are not all there, but they have great stage presence, and they have they're fun, and the songs are fun as well, and they're decent dance bits, But I felt like this year, on average, the weirdness was there, the cheesiness, the campiness, it was there. It felt a bit lower than other years. Not as bad as like a little bit lower. A little not. I just mean that there wasn't anything. In terms of the weirdness, there wasn't that much of like, whoa, Eurovision weirdness.
No, I agree with you, and I have a feeling that was intentional. So we had a briefing call prior to this year. Of all the people who'd be working on it, and we got like a presentation from one of the lead producers of the show, and there was like a big thing of like wanting to change the show's reputation. I don't know whether it's her decision particularly, or whether it was like a larger branding decision by the like ESC or the EBU rather. But one of the notes was like, oh, we don't want a reputation of it being cheesy. We want to be entertaining, and that dividing idea of trying to lean away from it being cheesy but really polished and fun. And so one of the things I do enjoy about Eurovision is it being camp. I'm not a fan of cheese, because there are a very popular thing in British nightclubs is like 90s cheese nights and stuff like that, and I fucking hate it. I can't stand that genre of music at all. I find it really annoying. So the really cheesy ones I don't personally enjoy, but I recognize that it is such part of the lifeblood, the DNA of Eurovision. To try and lose them entirely would be pointless. I think it would make the show worse. But I do think they were probably more stringent about how silly a given thing could be. Some of the sillier ones did not make it through to the final. So if you watched the final only, you would have missed some that would have been Moldova's, I think. Sorry, Malta. The busker with dance. There's somebody with a spangly saxophone, and it's kind of talking about being having social anxiety and not wanting to go to big parties, so hosting parties for yourself at home. And it's really charming and really camp, but it did not make it through to the final. So there was more camp, it just didn't make it. But yes, Czechia
Yeah,
is
no,
a.
I was gonna say, I was gonna say that just generally, like, while the cheesy and campness factor was like slightly down, although it was not. There was a year a few years ago. You will probably know this, and I can't remember what year it was. There was a year where there were so many ballads, and there wasn't anything that was like super cheesy or super whatever. It was just like everything was kind of like ballads, and nothing was really that exciting except for maybe one act. And my friend called it the austerity Eurovision.
Probably a mid 2010s one. A mid 2010s
yeah,
one.
Yeah, it was
sounds about right.
2010s. It was definitely when I was in Glasgow, so it must have been, I believe it was 2014, 2015 or something. Can't remember. But the other bit is, of course, the quality of the music, right? Like, how good is the music? And I feel like this year's Eurovision, the final, compensated for the less campy and less outrageousness with a higher batting average in the songs.
Genuinely good songs, I agree.
I actually don't think, well, there's some songs that I didn't like. I can't say that there's any songs that I thought were bad. The ones that I didn't like, I was like, I could recognize this is a competent song.
I mean, Poland's song is right there, which I think is pretty bad, but we might talk about that later. For those of you who might have been listening to Czechia's entry there and maybe want more in that genre, I do recommend FX, the Korean pop band. I've linked Four Walls by FX. Who that song is structured in a very similar way, right down to the rap break. So definitely get into K-pop girl bands if you liked Czechia's entry. Moving on, Belgium. This was one of your selections.
One of mine.
I love him.
That's Gustaph.
Gustaph is such a nice lad. Such a good boy.
So I really like this song because, okay, a lot of the things that I was saying when I was at a very small Eurovision party with just like my friend, her partner, and her cat and her baby, and her 10-week-old baby, by the way. And I remember watching Gustaph, watching a lot of the songs, and Gustaph was a perfect example that I'm like, this is gonna be playing in a lot of gay clubs.
I mean,
like I can just tell, like, at least, I don't know, in Dublin at least, because I know Dublin. I'm
absolutely.
like, okay, I can tell what bands are going to be playing in the gay bars in Dublin, even though I've not been to a gay bar in Dublin in like 5 years. And this is one of them, and that is a compliment, because the song is just like, it's campy, it's gay, it's lovely, it's just, I don't know. And Gustaph just seems really lovely, and his hat looks like Spy vs. Spy. Which I don't know if it's a reference that you get or anyone else gets.
I get it. And he showed every different performance had a different hat. It was great. Like the finals performance had a specific hat that he was locked in from, but he was in definitely lots of different hats across the time. But yes, I agree.
Amazing.
A crystallization of like early 90s Vogue house music played in gay clubs, and I think he really paid tribute to that. Right down to the woo kind of like sample. The chorus of black women for the backing of the chorus is a really common thing across that genre. They had the Vogue dancer who I got to speak to very briefly. Mostly we just kind of like, oh, we're both fabulous. Look at your nails. Oh, look at your nails.
Oh, that is so sweet.
And in my brain, I was like, I want to take a selfie with him. And I was like, I'm probably not allowed, so I'm not going to. But I'm just going to treasure that moment in my heart of it, just being able to go up to a performer and go like, black excellence. Because actually, Eurovision pretty fucking white a lot of the time.
Yes.
The instances where even if the lead performers themselves weren't POC, them having black backing singers, I really appreciated. Tvorchi is fucking great. Ukraine's entry was really cool, actually. Not part of our selection in this list, but shout outs to Ukraine. The staging on that was phenomenal. But love this song a lot.
In 2022, Italy sent this is just reminding me, like, just because you're talking about black excellence, it reminded me of this. I was very happy because as you might know, I'm part Italian. My parents live there. I have a lot of family there, and and I'm gonna say this because I'm on your stream. I don't say this on my stream because I don't like attracting certain kinds of people.
Sure.
I'm Italian Jewish.
Sure.
And my grandfather literally fled fascist Italy, and there's a huge resurgent fascism in Italy that's very scary for so many of us. And last year for Eurovision, we sent an Italian Egyptian guy, and that's a big fucking middle finger to all of that nonsense. And it just reminded me of that because of the. Yeah, we're already diving into the politics of Eurovision. I'm digressing. I'm too ADHD.
No, it's all good. And that kind of
yeah.
that positive discussion of politics is something that I enjoy.
Yes.
There's other bits of like political stuff about Eurovision that's difficult, but we might get into that later.
Yeah.
But this was my main singing in the shower kind of song. When the world's got me going crazy.
It's wonderful.
Love it.
Absolutely wonderful. I need to add it. I have like a playlist that I play every day when I'm like showering and getting ready for the day called Get Going. And it's all like a lot of stuff from my favorite anime and my favorite VTubers, and I'm gonna start adding stuff from Eurovision to it, I think.
You gotta. No,
I need to. I have to.
And placed pretty high, I think, actually. Definitely placed in the upper half, which was good. You always kind of worry about viewer voting versus judge voting, and everybody generally liked. I think this was the difficult thing about so many entries being really good, is that because you can only give 10 of them points, there are acts that are good but just happen to not be in anybody's top 10, and it's not that they are the worst performance necessarily, it's just that the competition was too fierce, because Germany's wasn't that bad, to be honest. They were having to go
was one. Germany was great, I thought.
Yeah, they had to go up against Australia, and I think that was a pretty hard-fought battle. You were only going to be voting for one metal song in the list. But no, if you're a fan of Gustav's vibes and this kind of resurgence of the kind of like 90s gay club scene was actually last year very popular, specifically given the revival by Beyonce, her most recent album, self-titled, where the big tracker "You Won't Break My Soul" had like lots of specific references to this era of music. Drake also released an album that had a whole bunch of sampling from this kind of era as well. So this is absolutely on trend and will definitely be showing up in a lot of playlists at a lot of nightclubs in the gay village in Manchester for a while to come. If I go the next time I'm at the village and I don't hear any Gustaph, it's going to be a fight. Moving on, we have one of my faves, Teya and Selena with Austria. Who the hell is Edgar?
Oh my god! Yeah, they were the opening act. They were the opening act, yeah.
Tough opening a show.
Yes.
But great that they could open. Great that we can open on something fun though, because this song is definitely fucking fun.
Absolutely. I look forward to their 2024 Eurovision entry, Who the Hell is Karl? About Karl Marx.
I mean, you know, if you ever thought it was difficult being a self-sustained artist financially, being the very specific type of communist that Karl Marx offers, also very difficult to be starving in that kind of energy. But this was the first Eurovision song that I heard this year. Because they were revealing them one by one on the lead up to the opening week of Eurovision, and it just so happened that like the day after I was confirmed that I got the gig and was like, okay, I'm gonna have to start tuning into all the social media and shit. This was the first one that came up, and I was like, oh, people coming with the heat from jump, I see.
Oh yeah. Also, a couple of things about this song. Now that I'm watching it and remember myself. One, love to see like a couple of girls that are a bit more like a bit closer to like plus size, doing like a big act or Eurovision. Because Eurovision, let's again be honest, it's very white and the women are very skinny. In general, not always, but in general. And so it's nicer to have that. Also, what this reminded me of is that the backup dancers in this Eurovision, for almost every country that had them, fucking incredible. Like we were talking about Belgium just now. The ones that they had for this. Also fantastic. Sometimes there were some acts that left me cold, but I was like, but the backup dancers always deliver because they're pros and they know what they're doing.
Choreography is important. Yeah. Choreography is important.
It's very important, and so many acts with like they got some great choreography, some great dancers, you know. And also, of course, in the case of Teya and Selena, they also had like all the CGI ones in the background.
The infinite hordes of backup dancers.
Yeah, I'm literally watching it once we talk. So yeah,
I'm surprised that by the way, fun fact, I do believe it is 1 billion LEDs across the panels and the floor. So in between acts, what they would do is that they would use the LEDs to mark the specific place where the props need to go, so the stagehands could, to the LED, precisely place all stage items in between each act.
That is so cool.
So cool. We got to see the little like lab, or like the little like room where they put all that shit together, and the servers in that room just make that room like it's the hottest room in the entire building. It's
oh my god,
absurd.
Oh, that's so cool.
Really cool. Hopefully they'll do like a little like a recorded tour or something for other people to kind of see how all that was put together, or a documentary thing, because it was really interesting. I will say that I was a bit I really love this song, and it's definitely going to be on my Spotify Wrapped at the end of this year with the amount that I rinsed it leading up to Eurovision. The side effect of listening to all of them so much prior is that I kind of can't listen to any of them right now.
Of course.
But the studio version of it is really good. But I don't think they are very good live performers, unfortunately. Like the staging and everything, it all came together really well. But it always felt. So I was able to go and see them do their test rehearsal. So they were mostly singing for tech, making sure that everything worked on sync and that the cameras were where they were supposed to be. There's actually an entire team of camera programmers to make sure that the automated cameras are where they're supposed to be. And they kind of like, didn't go in very hard until the final "Oh mio padre" at the very, very end. And I was like, oh, they're just holding back because they've performed this song literally 4 times in a row, and this is just to make sure that the staging was fine. And then when I saw them perform live, it's like, oh no, they just want to perform it like that, where they go really, really hard in on literally like the last 6 lines of the song, and that's a shame, because I think the entire song you could belt that if you really wanted to. I sure as fuck was doing so.
Yeah, I hear ya.
But I love these two. I hope they show up more. They met on like a Eurovision songwriting camp in, I think, Sweden. And
incredible.
The writing, like the deciding that it was Edgar Allan Poe that is possessing them was an entirely off the cuff, impulsive thing, and then after the fact realized that Edgar Allan Poe was like the first American like artist who self-sustained through their work, and I was like, oh well, that links in perfectly to the 0.003 this is the amount that we earn from Spotify plays kind of thing.
Wow.
So it was entirely serendipitous as a fun fact.
Interesting.
We're moving on to Croatia, one of your picks.
Oh, wait. Croatia? Oh, yes, sorry. I skipped and I saw Serbia. Let me just go to Croatia real quick. Just looking down the playlist. One of my picks. I don't remember what it is. That's very me, isn't it?
It's Let 3. It's the bunch of art punks who removed all their clothes on stage.
Yes, Let 3. Oh my god. So this was a band that apparently existed since the 80s.
Yeah. So, sometimes they don't send an artist immediately. Sometimes they actually send old heads who've been at this forever.
Yeah, these are a bunch of old guys who are doing gay Soviet kitsch.
Mm-hmm.
And
sorry about.
I gotta admit, I don't know the Sorry, what?
Because I'm trying to find information simultaneously, and YouTube likes to autoplay shit. There was a big blast of audio for chat, but not for you.
Oh, no worries.
But yeah. No, they are old school. They've been at this for a time.
Yeah, so Croatia, they had the Soviet quiche. Oh God, I don't know how to pronounce that in English. Quiche, and with all that campiness and a lot of fabulous makeup, fantastic staging. The song this is exactly what I mean about a Eurovision song. This is a perfect Eurovision song in the sense that it's completely ridiculous. It has a fun staging. It's a fun enough song. I ain't gonna listen to it aside from Eurovision.
Man, maybe it's mean to say, but this song sucks. The staging is great. I love their outfit. I love the fucking Rasputin Bond villain motherfucker who wanders up at the end with the twin rockets.
I love that. I admit that I need to read a translation of the lyrics. Also, hi Pyramidino. That's
hello,
my
hello.
friend.
I do remember a little bit of the lyrics that I can explain to you. So
go for it.
The entire.
Oh yeah, they strip. That's right. I love that they strip, and it's just all these middle-aged guys with someone's photo. Can't remember what the photo was.
So the entire song is making fun of Putin and another dictator from East Europe. And the way that they waste their money. Like the whole thing is about how Crocodile Putin spent his money on a tractor or something like that.
Oh my God, yes.
So generally there is a specific rule that the ESC or the EBU rather maintain that social politics are okay. So you can have a song about how it's fine to be queer, and you can have two girls kiss each other on stage, and how it's bad to be racist.
It's a participating broadcaster HRT. Sorry.
Yes, indeed.
Sorry.
Yes, indeed.
Please continue.
So you're allowed to do songs about kind of like social positivity, and that style of politics is okay, but it's apparently not okay to do inter-country politics. You can't do songs about that. But that line can be really blurred because obviously the rights of queer people, for example, are going to be different in some countries, and having songs about that, one would argue, are also geopolitically conscious. So where do you draw that line? And it's weird that this song did not make the EBU go absolutely not, because I would say that this is definitely a geopolitical politics song.
At the same time, this is Ukraine's Eurovision. Although, I also want to talk later about this being Ukraine's Eurovision. I have some opinions about this.
We will make sure that we include that in the other thoughts at the run.
Yes.
But the other fun fact that I have about this group, two fun facts. One, they said that if they won, they remove their kind of like coats and dresses and perform the kind of like last verse in their underwear. They said that if they won, they would strip completely naked and do that.
I wanted them to win so bad.
I think they were very conscious that they were never going to win.
I needed to see a bunch of middle-aged dudes that are doing parody political, because I could tell that it was a parody political song. I could tell enough about that. I mean, it's Croatia making fun of the Soviet Union at the very least. I was like, I need to see all these middle-aged comedy men strip strip into the nude for Eurovision.
Just dick swanging.
I need to see this. I need it.
They were once apparently previously arrested for performing while nude in the street and said, "Oh no, we all have butt plugs in, and that counts as clothing." So
is there anything more iconic than that?
they go hard in as many ways as you want to put that.
Man, when you hear stuff like that, It's just God. Britain has gotten so tame as a nation. Our performers and our comedians are so fucking tame. The hardest thing that the most edgy stuff that they do is like, hoo, you can't say that the transes are not all right anymore. That's all this country fucking puts out. Meanwhile, in Croatia, you have these middle-aged guys making fun of Putin and getting arrested for being naked in public and wearing butt plugs. What's fucking happening to Britain? Is why
the bar has been raised. The bar has officially been raised.
The country that gave the world so many incredible acts. What the fuck? But before we continue, I wanted to say I'm about to open tonight's tipple, which is very light for me because I'm weak and light and a lightweight. I don't know why I did my Queen Elizabeth voice for that. We do not need to scrutinize that. I have distilled in England Hortus rhubarb and ginger and gin ready to drink from a can from Lidl. This was about a couple pounds.
I have a ready to drink can in my fridge as well. Give me literally 30 seconds and we can crack them at the same time. Hold on.
Let's go. Handcrafted botanical gin, chat.
I love having an open plan apartment. My fridge isn't horrendously loud that I have to turn off every time I do professional recording. There we go, we're back.
God. This is a handcrafted botanical gin, rhubarb and ginger, which are not my favorite flavors, but I do love the flavor of gin. So I'm gonna open this bit of can ASMR. Much like the video game Only Cans, which I seriously recommend.
Go on, crack the
not
can.
for the little ones. Here we go.
Nice. And on my end, I have Funkin' Nitro Cocktails, a spiced rum zombie. That was going for £4 for £6 in Morrison's, so I was like, okay, let's go.
Oh, let's go.
Right.
Let's absolutely go. Gosh. Oh, okay.
There was After Effects on that. Jesus. And it's bright pink. There was like a whole. There's like a gas chamber or something inside this that makes it go when you open it. So very fizzy. Very fizzy.
Wow.
And fizzy and bright pink, just like Let 3.
Nice.
In the staging of this, in both their original music video and the staging, there's like a drag performer who's like in a straps of like black and bright green lycra and really aggressive contour. And I hadn't watched the music video prior to their staging, but that drag act was at the turquoise carpet, the kind of like red carpet event that they do prior to proper Eurovision week, where they go past and do on-street interviews with the media and wave to the fans and things like that. And I was like, who is this drag artist for or with? Because they weren't on the carpet. They were just kind of like milling around next to the journalists, like chain smoking, and I'm like, why are you here?
Wow.
Who let you in? And then seeing them like blown up to 12, 15 feet tall, like wiggling around, I'm like, I understand. It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Serbia. Luke Black with Samo Spava. Oh my god. My tiny gay child. I love him.
So yeah, this was one that almost made my top 5. Because...
Who doesn't love giant robots?
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously, that's my bias. But I have a bigger bias, which is the fact that I kept saying, and my friends did not understand what I was referencing, but I get like, first of all, the song is a banger. Obviously, song is fun and a banger, and the singer is precious and adorable, and just sings very nicely. But the backup dancers, I kept referring to them as Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl gimps.
I was going to say they remind me a lot like Psycho Mantis from Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah. And they even they're plugged with tubes. It's that kind of industrial kind of vibe. Which, as a former, yes, chat. Before you ask, I have been a hipster, I have been a punk, but for a period of time before both of those, I was a goth. And as someone that was in that scene, kind of never leaves you. And I gotta say, I loved the entire vibe of this because it had that kind of like, I wouldn't say this is goth music, but I would definitely say that this, not even industrial, but I would say that it has like a vibe. There's a vibe happening.
It definitely
I love that vibe.
it definitely goes a bit dark wave in some of the. It doesn't go full on industrial, but it's got those hints in there. No. The lyrics are really interesting. So he wrote this in the middle of the pandemic. Oh, two things. Before that. So last year, Serbia's entry Constructor did really well with her song about disinfecting your hands. And it was a really experimental song. And she mentored Luke Black prior to this. So genuinely, like, you know, mentored by Eurovision royalty to continue doing weird Serbian shit. And I'm like, absolutely brilliant. 10 out of 10. And
brilliant, like that sounds like an epitaph, like a great epitaph. It's just fantastic.
This song is specifically about how during the pandemic, and while there was just not just the pandemic, but all the other wretched shit that was going on in the world simultaneously, and how at Luke's kind of like age bracket, it was really easy to just retreat into bed or into the world of video games and stay there rather than face the terrible shit going on outside, which is why all the backup dancers are plugged into the machine and he frees them all. Yeah. And I'm like, down to the bit where he's like, hello, and like waves up at the sky is like a reference to The Sims when their stats are really low and they wave up at you like, God, why have you forsaken me?
Oh wow! I didn't know that. That's wow! I never have thought that. Wow,
layered.
That's so cool.
Layered. Also, there is like a remix EP of this, which go much more intense in terms of the kind of like tone of the music, and they both whip too. Let me see if I can go find this. Go and tell me what other bits and pieces you thought about this while I go and find the remix album.
As I said, aside from the aesthetic, the backup dancers once again absolutely killing it. That dance that they do at the end when they're all liberated and they're like shaking their heads, and it's also coordinated with Luke himself. Great. I love Luke's outfit. He has the big chunky boots. Always love big chunky boots. And yeah, they're just like doing a fantastic scene. Also, I gotta say, robot design, pretty decent. I am extremely, for anybody that watches my streams, I am the kind of person that I am very welcoming to the hobby, to anybody. Like I want everybody to enjoy the hobby of giant robots by either building them, watching TV shows, collecting them, whatever. But I also have my own opinions that are very snobby. And my own opinions are like, they're my opinions. If I don't like something, that doesn't mean that you're wrong for liking it, right? Which a lot of people in the internet do not seem to understand this concept.
Yeah.
You know? But here's the thing. I can be very snobby when it comes to mecha design in terms of my own personal taste, what I think is good or bad. It's a decent mecha design. That one, whatever, whatever that thing is, that evil. I think, normally when people compare giant robots to Transformers, I shake my head because they normally don't know what they're talking about. This is very much inspired by the aesthetic happening in Hollywood in terms of giant robots that came from originally the Michael Bay Transformers movies and then evolved through Pacific Rim, which was obviously taking a lot of stuff from the mecha genre, from the mecha anime genre. But this is a really good realization of that. It's a very, very nice looking evil satanic mech. I wouldn't mind having a figure of this. It's pretty cool.
Hey.
I like it. It reminds me a bit, final note, reminds me slightly of Full Gore from Killer Instinct.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, it's a good design. I want to know who designed that, actually. I want a name.
It's interesting because it was actually... so Luke's staging was already done prior to this. There was like home performances of this and the robot was already in it, so it was designed clearly by somebody of his kind of like creative vision team. I think he's kind of posted on Instagram the kind of credits list essentially for the performance, like who all the backing dancers are and stuff like that. So I think you might be able to actually go find that information out. One last fun fact. Somebody managed to go and find the custom Tomb Raider PS1 fan levels he made in 2009.
Oh no!
And streamed them. To which he was kind of like, oh my God, what the fuck was the tweet that he put out quoting this guy in like affectionately, but it's kind of like, I'm so glad that when you're a performer of any kind, and like people then dig into your background and you're immediately like, oh no, I mean, I don't think I've done anything especially weird, but what if they misconstrue something or whatever? And I like that somebody did a deep dive to go and find the cool video game shit you did like 2 decades ago. That's great. I love that.
Incredible. That is incredible. Yeah, I found the bit with all the credits actually. So I'm gonna put it in chat. The Insta post.
Thank you very much.
There's not a specific credit. No worries. There's not a specific credit for the mecha designer, but I'm gonna guess it's probably the VFX person. The VFX person, Razorade, who does a lot of extremely fetishistic art.
You know that tracks. You know that makes sense.
It's really good though. It's really incredible.
If it's the same really shiny black latex and metal, then yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sorta. Yeah, this person, their Instagram doesn't have a lot of stuff on it. I wonder if they're somewhere else, if they're available somewhere, if they're artists like on Twitter or something.
Maybe.
Anyway, I'm gonna look this up. Razorade is the name.
Razorade, nice.
Self-proclaimed digital junk man.
Yeah, all of this makes
frig.
sense. This is all the puzzle pieces are coming together.
Oh
I'm
my
not
god,
surprised.
their stuff is incredible. It's not necessarily the stuff I normally go for, but it's just so striking. You know?
I will have to look
like
later.
No.
Moving on, one of your selects, and my boss's favorite entry, Marco Marconi. I think that's the full name. Yeah, of Italy.
Let me bring this up.
My boss on the team was an Italian gay guy and was kind of like, I want to marry this man. just the entire time. When he walked out on stage, actually, when they kind of introduced everybody at the start of the show, and he walked out with the Italian flag in one hand and the Pride Progress flag in the other, I'm like, yes, get it, king.
Yeah, I this is where my bias comes in, because I am extremely, obviously, I speak Italian. I'm very strongly connected to that culture, and so I really like this kind of song. Is not necessarily unique for Italian pop. It's a very traditional Italian pop love song, but he has such a beautiful voice.
Very, very good singer.
And it's basically a song about the sadness that comes after a breakup that, is basically so great it could destroy the world kind of thing. It's very poetic, but it's like, if you read it, it's just one of these things where it's like, honestly, I feel like the cynicism of the English-speaking world has been a detriment to humanity, because like this song is very earnest and it's very poetically written, but it's about a very simple subject. It's a very simple song about like, hey, I'm really sad about a breakup, so let me sing extremely heartfelt, poetic stuff around how difficult that is.
Hey, if it works for Adele, it can work for Marco Mengoni. Sorry, I mispronounced
Marco Mengoni.
Surname. But definitely one of the big heartthrobs this year.
Definitely. And I loved as well how like when they interviewed him, it's a half-true stereotype that a lot of Italian guys are very up themselves and very arrogant and very like, and he was deer in the headlights, extremely anxious, did not know what to say. They asked, you sang whatever, and he's like, it's a song about this, whatever. They're like, what else do you have to say? And he was like, just that. And he was like, deer in the headlights, and I was like, okay, this is good. This is good. You're not falling into the trap of being like your stereotypical, arrogant Italian showbiz dude.
Hey, there was
brilliant.
One person specifically who was the most arrogant person at Eurovision this year, and that was fucking Noah Kirel for Israel. Oh my god, I can't stand her.
Oh my god.
Positive about everybody who attended. That's the vainest performance I've ever seen at a Eurovision.
Wow.
There is the way that in the final bit where she's, "You want to see me dance?" and then she just kind of writhes on the floor for like 12 seconds while a gigantic version of her is like waxed large on the screen behind. I'm like, this is so self-serving. I can't. There's a very funny photo of Marco. Well, I say funny. There's a photo of Marco next to Cyprus's entry and Andrew Lambro, who is part Cypriot, part Australian, and lives in Australia and has a very, very Australian accent. Doesn't sing with an Australian accent, so when he was like talking in the interview rooms afterwards, like, wait, what? Hold on. But they are the exact same genre of man, so them placed next to each other looks like somebody hit the clone tool in Photoshop. It's very funny.
Wow.
And they both have the same
funny.
kind of like, yes, I'm going to be wearing a top that technically covers my entire torso, but you can see my nips. So like the way that my armchair is currently placed, it's a little hard to see, but that like camel colored turtleneck that he's wearing is sheer. You could absolutely see chest hair, abs, and nip through that shirt. And he knows it and is proud of this fact.
Brilliant.
As a song,
Great.
not my personal vibe, but I appreciate how handsome and genuinely quite earnest this man is. And he did really well.
Yeah.
He was the most streamed on YouTube and Spotify leading up to pre-Eurovision week. So the fans were out in force for this man.
For Marco.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I'm checking where he's from. I'm about to judge him based on where he's from. He's from Lazio, which is the region that Rome is in, and he's from a city called Ronciglione, which I've never heard of, but like a lot of Italian cities, God, it's fucking stunning.
Okay.
I say that as someone that's been all over Italy. I'm not telling you touristy shit. Italy's fucking stunning. And the worst part is that the Italians know it. We know it. That's why they're so arrogant. Their country is very beautiful.
We know everything is beautiful here, for sure. Moving on to the next, we have Australia. Voyager with Promise. This was one of my very, very highly rated. I sang this. This was one of the ones I also rinsed a lot on Spotify leading up to, and sang out loud as they were performing it. It's great, but you probably already know this. You've probably seen performances where there are musicians on stage at Eurovision and they're really phoning it in. You can tell that they're not really playing properly. That is actually a rule of Eurovision. You are not allowed to play instruments live because the musical backing needs to be the same for every performance. They're judging you on your singing ability.
Because we could tell that some of the bands were not playing. Because we're in HD now. We're in the HD era now, Caster. We've been in the HD era for a long time now. And you can tell when a person on your television, even if it's on a tiny 12-inch screen, which is how I watch Eurovision, on a screen literally smaller than the one I'm watching it now, you could tell. You can tell. If you've ever touched an instrument, you can tell.
Which is...
Sorry,
Yeah. And it immediately hamstrings every band. Because...
Yeah, anyone that is like a rock band is hamstrung by that. Yeah.
Which is so strange. I think they managed to carry this off with staging and energy. And you could also tell that even though they can't play the guitar for real, you can tell that they are playing the guitar for real. Like if you put an aux cord into that thing, you would hear that note for note. Yeah.
So I have an important question for you that you probably will not be able to answer. Did they need a whole car in there? Did they need to get a whole car in there? Was that necessary?
One of the acts had half a car, but they didn't make it through to the grand finals. So you would have seen 1.5 cars, I suppose.
Yes. I just like, it's a good car. It has that. It has those lights that go like that open up like their eyes.
Very DeLorean kind of style.
Very DeLorean. Very 80s. Like these guys felt like, what if the darkness were Australian and a bit sparklier, maybe a bit less, I don't know. I would define some parts of the darkness as kind of aggressively heterosexual, but that's just me.
Sure, no, I get what you mean. I mean, the lead guitarist, the lady, she whips. She gives me very Holtzman energy from, the femme Ghostbusters from a couple years ago. And just every lesbian I knew was just in love with Holtzman as a character.
I love her. When they finished, because I wasn't fully paying attention, and when they finished and I saw the guitarist was like a cool, cute dyke lady, I was like, yes, I love this. Also, the fact that there was a guitar appeared. Great. Big fan of the guitar. Bring back the guitar. Make them mass produce again so that kids can have guitars, please. Yeah, this is one of the because there are performers who are TikTok people, there are performers who perform at Eurovision multiple times, and there are performers who have a really well-established career well prior to them appearing at Eurovision. And this group have been performing as a synthwave metal band for years, and you can tell. They just made a song that they would release otherwise for Eurovision. This is actually one of the bands that I've been actively listening to the rest of their discography separate to, like after the fact. I'm like, I want to listen to all the other stuff that Voyager have done. Nice.
And it's fucking good. Ghost Mile, which was released about 6 years ago now, an absolutely astounding banger of an album. Disconnected is my favorite from it, so I'm going to go link that for chat.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it's definitely one of those instances where you're like, okay, let me go listen to the rest of your career. Oh, the rest of your career whips too. The lead performer, the one with the asymmetrical long hair, professional lawyer.
Yes, we love to see it. You love to see it.
So even though he's had a music career for however long, he's also passed the bar exam, which is fun.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Love that.
Moving on. Queen. I mean, people are queens for people think that Loreen is the queen and she's very good at what she does. I still feel that she's the Erykah Badu that we have at home, but we'll get to it. I'm glad you know. I'm glad you understand who Erykah Badu is. I've given that reference to other people. They've looked at me blankly before.
Sadly, I only know her through Janelle Monáe.
Sure.
Because they've collabed.
They've collaborated before. Yeah.
But, yeah. That's how I know her. I also haven't listened to Janelle in a few years, actually.
New singles out recently. It is in the same energy as Yoga, which is not generally the style that I like from her, but it's still a good song. But yes, we have Blanca Paloma, EAEA.
Blanca Paloma.
I love her. She is Spain. Queen. Adore her. She can do no wrong.
Yeah, so she's great. And now, I'm gonna put my positive and negative biases on the table. Lady who's a good singer and looks like she could kill me. Extremely biased towards. Anything that comes from, like, I'm biased towards Italy and towards Spain, even though the Spanish are, and I will always keep saying this, the British of Latin America. Because I tell you, in the Spanish-speaking world, it's very easy. You meet a Spanish person and they're very nice, and they are very nice. I have a lot of Spanish friends. Some of my best friends.
Okay.
But the thing is that while we're all, we all get along as if we're all equals, we're kind of not. And I do respect Spain a lot. Definitely respect Spain a lot more than Britain. But at the same time, they sometimes do forget that they were an imperialist country, and in many ways still are. But all of that, those biases aside, I loved this song. This song is, I was wondering about the sound of the song, and I just looked it up, and it's a style called, it's a genre called Nuevo Flamenco. So flamenco is a traditional genre in Spain, and something that's been happening a lot. It's been happening for decades, honestly, in a lot of countries, and I can only speak about the ones that I know about personally, where we new generations get the traditional musical and dance genres of, like, in this case Spain, that's flamenco, and you introduced new modern pop or rock elements to it. Like, one of my favorite bands is an Argentinian band called Tangueto, who do like EDM tango, and it's incredible. They just released like their 20th anniversary record. Fantastic. And flamenco is a genre that has a lot of connection with the fact that Spain was literally a Muslim country for hundreds of years. And a lot of that remained in the culture to this day. Like, a lot of the influences in culture, music, in architecture, you know, in a lot of different aspects. And this is very evident, I think, in flamenco and in no flamenco as well. And I just love this song. It's just like, I wasn't paying attention to the lyrics. It has style, it has intensity, it has a tremendous staging, and holy shit, Blanca Paloma's voice is fucking incredible.
Nailed it the entire time. Every single performance that she did, because you have to sing the song a lot of fucking times across the 2 weeks, and across 0 errors, 10 out of 10.
Yes, and the like, as someone that I've done like a certain amount of professional level singing training, not professional singing. I'm putting the distinction. Training towards something that I am not yet. Might not ever be. But like, I know the amount of effort required to sing like this. The amount of effort and practice and exercises and years and years and years of it required to get to a point where you have a voice that is that powerful, that you can maintain, that you can repeatedly hit every note to that point. Like, you know, this woman, I don't, like, from looking at her Wikipedia page, I can't tell if she's done it. She could be an opera singer at the level that her voice is at. She has that level of, like, extremely technically proficient while also managing to, like, exude that passion. So it's incredible. Just blew me away. Just completely blew me away. Blew me away, Jerry.
Yeah, no, it's quite funny because I in the kind of going through and writing notes down and everything, and I was doing it in alphabetical order of the countries. So Spain was one of the last ones I listened to, and it was kind of like, fuck, why don't I listen to this like earlier? I'm obsessed. I'm one of those people that like follows a bunch of like music theory people on YouTube, and even though I don't play an instrument myself, I always have my ears and brain open for a funny chord arrangement or some bullshit time signatures. And I loved the flamenco polyrhythm stuff where it's like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. So good. And then the kind of like ambient electronica kind of fused in on that. That's her entire career, by the way. She's not released many singles internationally. Like, if you try to look on Spotify or YouTube or whatever, the amount of presence she has there is quite low. So she might actually be a performer that mostly does stuff for Eurovision and has done some singles on the side. But there is one of her songs, Niña del Fuego, or Child of Flame, which is in this exact same genre. So if you're a fan of this song, you are genuinely going to like every single thing that she's done. Also linked in chat. I'm going to have to put together a side playlist when I put this VOD to YouTube, so all this information is actually present. Also to note, if you want a more approachable instance of flamenco music used in pop culture, it's used in a couple tracks in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, because that game is set in the Iberian Peninsula, which is
oh my god,
Spain and Portugal.
Can I do a mini rant?
Oh, sure.
Can I do a mini rant?
Go for it.
So I'm not a Pokemon person. Generally speaking, I have nothing against it. I enjoy the monster designs. I can't vibe with the games because they have always been and forever will remain baby's first Dragon Quest. And as someone that cut my teeth on Final Fantasy, it's not enough. There's not enough there for me.
Sure.
But I love it, and I love a lot of it, and so many of my friends, like Samo is into it, Captain Hurricane is into it, everybody's into it, and I respect that, and I love it, and I love seeing that passion. So one of the things that I found really interesting is that Scarlet and Violet were doing the Spain thing. And And I read one of the review. I think it was in one of the gaming websites that I frequent. Like I read Polygon, I read Kotaku, I read a bunch of others, and I can't remember where it was. And it doesn't matter because it's whatever. But somebody in a review was saying that there wasn't, despite it being advertised that way, there wasn't really that much of Spanish culture there. That it felt more generally Mediterranean. And I was like, this is the most American I have never been to Europe thing that I've ever fucking read. And I read that kind of stuff all the time in those fucking websites. But I was like, the house
every
that the main
single
starts
town
in, like the house the main character starts in has, okay, I'm gonna tell you something extremely local, extremely specific that shows me the Japanese developers of Pokemon did their research and went to Spain. Like, they have decorative white porcelain painted in a specific kind of blue and like a specific kind of like white and blue tiling in some parts of the house. That is super Spanish. That is such a Spanish traditional way of decorating your house.
There's
like,
a bunch more of that in, I think,
from that.
Cascaraza, like the water gym leader town, also has a bunch of that kind of like
There's
styling as well.
Not to mention that the main academy is based on Sagrada Familia in Barcelona that I've literally been inside of. And it's literally Sagrada Familia with a Pokemon theme. It's beautiful, the work that they've done in that game to make it feel like Spain. It feels like Spain so much. It's wonderful. And when I saw people like, oh, it doesn't really feel like too much of Spain, I'm like, have you been to Spain, mate? Have you been? Have you fucking been? Have you been? Or if you've been to Spain, have you been anywhere aside from fucking Madrid? Okay, have you been to Barcelona? Have you been to Valencia? Have you been to, I was just, I
adore Barcelona. I think, because I think that's one of the things that get this tangent. I'm going to mention it and then move on. Okay, I'm going to mention this first. The reason why I bring up Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, there's one particular area, the East Province area, and the song is in 11/4 because it's specifically a flamenco song. The time signature is absolutely cracked, and it's great. Both me and Rafi, who I do most of my like Pokemon co-op streams with, they have a really strong music background, and we music nerd out to each other quite a lot. And both of us entered that area and went, ooh. So the energy is shared. But yeah, Game Freak in general do a lot of research in trying to make the areas that they visit in the Pokemon world feel authentic. The Manchester equivalent in Pokemon Sword and Shield, 110% accurate. I can take I think like this spring I took a photo of me walking down the canal to get into town and was like, this is just Motorstoke they walked along this canal and took pictures. I can tell the exact references that they made. But yes.
Oh yeah. And so Sword and Shield was one that I played, was the Pokemon game I've ever played. Like I always do the same thing with Pokemon games. I played the first 8 hours, get bored, drop it.
Sure.
But I played like 16 hours of Pokemon Sword and Shield because I liked it a lot. It had some problems, but I liked it a lot. And I'm going to get to one thing that I liked in a second. I'm sorry for this Pokemon tangent, but I got to do it. But there was a town in the north that was like, what is it? Is it Hammerlock?
Oh, sure.
No.
Hammerlock is like
What
the
is it called?
Birmingham equivalent with the gigantic castle.
Is it meant to be Birmingham though? Because I thought it was meant to be Edinburgh.
So
I thought it looks a lot like Edinburgh to me.
the Galar is like the UK but upside down. So the further north you go, technically the further south you go in the real world. Really? So it's why Wyndon is at the very top but is London. And while you start in like the Cotswolds and the kind of like the Lake District at the start of the game because you're in that neck of the woods.
But the Cotswolds are much more south than that.
Do I have the Cotswolds wrong? But you start in the Lake District at the start of the game. And the DLC area basically unlocks Scotland, the Crown Tundra. But most of it is pretty wastelandy. It's pretty empty. It's mostly wilderness.
You start in Postwick. But that's like the furthest north. So you start in Scotland, technically.
Yes, you start in Scotland and then make your way south in the real world to London.
So there's no Glasgow or Edinburgh.
No, not in the main line, not in the main game.
I thought Hammerlock was meant to be Edinburgh because it's like a huge, very, very, very touristy castle with a lot of assholes.
There's a lot. There's a surprising
And that's
number
what
of.
Edinburgh is.
There's a surprising number of castles in the UK. Funnily enough.
Yeah, but I never. I mean, I've been to. I go to Birmingham every summer for a convention, and I never see a castle there.
Yeah, to the NEC, which is nowhere near the castle. Birmingham NEC
Wait,
is
there's
great
a castle. Yeah. Yeah.
But I will be going there for UK Games Expo in a couple of weeks. But
I go to Birmingham every year for the TF Nation, the biggest Transformers convention in Europe.
Yeah, for sure. I need to keep cognizant of time. Hold on, we're almost there though. No, this is me. I decided to bring up Pokemon. Staying within the Iberian Peninsula, and actually, when I sent Portugal Mimicat Coração to Rafi and was like, the Baie style Oricorio and Quaquaval, the water starter, did a collab for Eurovision. They decided to do a musical number. I fucking adore this song. I Coração is astounding as a piece. It feels like it's like a B-side from Chicago, and she gives it so much energy.
I'm rewatching it now. Once again, first of all, side note, dancers, incredible, beautiful staging, and just like a gorgeous performance. Like, it's just like an exciting song that has, as you say, that kind of cabaret kind of feel, but a very specific kind of Mediterranean kind of cabaret kind of vibe, which really, really did it for me. In a contrast to EAEA, this is very easy to clap to without any music theory, and I think it definitely got everybody to go along with it. I will also note the beat switch that they do near the end, where it kind of takes on a bit of like a trap style triplet hi-hat while she like catwalks down to the front of the stage. Love it. Even as someone that knows a lot about music, I don't understand what you just said, but it's cool.
Like, so it's the general kind of like cabaret musical flamenco style for the big chunk of it. And then just before it gets to the last chorus, they strip the beat way back. It kind of takes on a bit of a hip hop tone in how it does the percussion. And she just slowly catwalks down to the front. And it's just good.
Right, yeah.
It's just good.
It's just fantastic. Also, a little historical side note. While the Spanish are the Brits of most of Latin America, the Portuguese are not exactly the Brits of Brazil. Because there was a while when Portugal, the Portuguese Empire, was taken over by Napoleon. And so the Portuguese Empire was actually just Brazil. And the king of Portugal went to Brazil. And Brazil then was a Brazilian empire, so it's kind of more complicated in that one. In that case, just historical little side note.
But yeah. There's definitely the kind of like a colonizer spread across a lot of the European countries that take part in this.
Oh yeah.
Hi
Speaking
Tom,
of,
thank you for redeeming.
Yes, thank you. Speaking of side note, I hated France this year.
Oh, I disagree.
I hated it.
Mother. The stage performance of it was not as fun as I would have expected. I would have expected her to be moving around the space a little bit more. But I love her. I love her old Hollywood styling. The turquoise carpet look that she had was like straight out of fucking Cruella de Vil. It was like a to the floor kind of like ball gown coat in black and white diamonds with a matching hat. Stellar.
Yeah, I just like for me it was more like let me bring her up again just so I don't want to misspeak. I want to remember things correctly. Let me look. France. Flag parade, France. There's France. Last era.
Yes. There was.
It felt extremely. I sometimes don't have a lot of time for some stuff that feels extremely up itself white French.
Oh, sure.
For me, especially not with the current climate in France. I feel like this is the France for export kind of stuff. That the kind of stuff that is compatible with the kind of people that think Amélie is very quaint. Those are my very strong.
Yeah, I mean, I won't deny that there is an intentional, very toyetic energy to this. Like it is a living Barbie doll that will sing sad gay disco for you.
Yeah, the fact that there's like a prominent French flag during her act. I'm like, I don't know about that, Chief. Not hype on that. Not hype on that.
France has refused to sing in English for their entire career, and they're not going to stop now.
No, that's fine.
But
no. Singing in French is fine. It's the French flag. It's the French flag. Like having the French flag prominently in part of their act. I'm like, not a lot of countries do that, and especially you don't tend to see the Big Five doing that. To that I can remember, and there's a reason for that because in a lot of the Big Five countries, there's certain aspects of the nationalism going to the flag, and you kind of don't want to do it because you don't want to bring the mood down. And they did it for this, and not hype on that. Not hype on that, I gotta say.
Yeah, they all have to kind of bring their flags out at the start of the thing anyway, as they roll out. But yes, I guess as part of the staging, it's its own energy. That's true.
I'm talking about the staging. I'm talking about like the fact that it merged with the. It merged together with the vibe of the song to make it be something like, oh, this feels like nationalism. I need to look up the lyrics, but I was like, oh, this feels like French nationalism.
I mean, if this incarnation of sad gay disco is not your energy, Lithuania last year also submitted some sad gay disco, Sentimental, which hits basically the exact same spot of kind of like a disco house that France this year was also hitting. So there is an alternative. There is an alternative.
There's an alternative, and honestly, I had such a crush on her. extremely lesbo core.
I need to put both of these songs into rave.dj and let them and mash them up because I kind of want to hear what they sound next to each other.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun.
A thing to note. Before we move on, Portugal got zero funding for staging, which is why they had nothing except the backup dancers and not even a full suite of 6, because you can only have a maximum of 6 people on stage at once. And yet she still did all that, she still got to the finals.
That was incredible. Portugal was just incredible. Like that staging is extremely
good choreography. They're all good facial actors as well. They're really
all facial actors. The choreography is great. The outfits are great. And also, like, I am a sucker for well put together, like, pulling off minimalism is hard at the best of times. Pulling off good aesthetic minimalism is extremely difficult because it's easy to add stuff. It's very hard to remove until you have nothing. And when you're working with very little, like, yeah, when I'm looking at it now, I'm like, yeah, it does show that it's much simpler than a lot of the others, but I didn't notice it at the time because there's just such verb. There's such verb and such energy to what she's doing, what the dancers are doing. And it's like, yeah, now that you've mentioned it, I'm noticing that it's so much simpler than everybody else's. And you don't notice it because it actually serves to highlight just her and the dancers, and it's just it's strong, it makes it stronger.
I definitely need to go and see. I definitely need to see if she's done other, because I've only done deep dives into 2 people so far, into Voyager and into the next one that we'll be raising in just a second. But I need to see what else Mimicat has done, because if she's got a music career prior to Eurovision, I want to hear it. She sounds great. Moving on to the act that everybody was so excited
including myself.
Including myself. We have Käärijä Finland with Cha Cha Cha.
Cha cha cha. The crowd was chanting in the arena. They were chanting cha cha cha. They were chanting for the song. Everyone in the arena wanted this song to win, and they kept interrupting Graham Norton. Like, and he kept going like, okay, guys, we still need to
Please
vote,
calm
though.
down. Let it rock. But God,
Let it go. Yeah.
Considering Käärijä's entire, I was going to say, is it Finland? Yep, absolutely, it's Finland. Considering Käärijä's entire deal is being a bowl haircutted, like greasy little drunk weirdo. Man, he can get it. Oh my God.
You know, not my type, but I can see it. And also, again, this track is like perfect, like early 2000s clubbing music.
Grant,
it's just so, yeah.
I'm going to tell my single rude joke because I don't do very many. Granted, due to a medical condition he had when he was 20, he has had his entire large intestine removed, so he will be topping instead, but that is fine.
God.
With that joke out of the way, yes, a big part of his. I'm glad you enjoyed that, Tom. His music career is very much like his idea is like he's like genre free. He doesn't want to stick to specific music genres. And he sort of achieves that in the work that he does. I think specifically what he aims to do is various different genres of party music in which he then involves his own rapping style in.
Yeah.
And with that comes with the kind of like really unique outfit. Being shirtless is partly his deal. I think the kind of like green puffer sleeves is specifically his Eurovision gear, but generally showing off the Rammstein tattoo is like
amazing
across the board what he does. He used to be blonde apparently, so the black hair is pretty recent.
I will say a lot of people were saying like I actually saw, so because my Twitter is like VTuber scene and I see a lot of fan art and stuff on Eurovision night. So many retweets of Eurovision fan art, so many retweets of like anime, beautiful, high quality anime fan art of this man.
Oh God, of all of them, I've seen so much fan art of Käärijä.
So much of Käärijä. And also, I did joke while I was watching this with my friend. I was like, I am glad that Finland brought a human centipede. Because
yes,
they have that moment.
Intentional.
And it's like, whoa.
An intentional inclusion.
God.
And they all have like white gum guards in, so they have these like eerily perfect smiles.
Oh, that's what that is. I thought they had all bleached their teeth. We were like, why? We were like, what the fuck's going on?
And
oh my word.
Käärijä's work is also somebody who I've listened to their wider stuff. Also really good. Funnily enough, a lot of it actually quite specifically reminds me of the Maury Calliope's early Read Better work.
Yeah, I do think her early. Well, I think her early work was better because I feel like nowadays she's leaning a lot into like J-pop.
Yes, her producers and stuff have changed, but it doesn't really sound like her early work.
She's not bad, and she's a good singer. My problem with it is that there are at least like 10 other artists that I could listen to that do that better and more interestingly. And she's just doing like some stuff that's kind of very cliche, where before she was doing interesting stuff. And I think it's because that interesting stuff is now going on her pre-Hololive stuff that she's revived. So that's kind of where the more interesting stuff is going.
Yeah, they both... Sorry, just to finish the thought real quick. They both had like a similar interest in applying rap to music genres that don't normally have that. And then also both of them are big fans of Eminem. And you can kind of tell that in their style of rapping. Oh my God, that's such a... delete. What? Can I remove that? Oh, it's copying the image. That's not what I want to do. I want to do copy link address.
Demonetizes. I love Shut Up Get Happy. It was like my record of 2023.
Oh yeah, the stuff that she's done independently since is very good. But To give a correct link.
She's also like a superstar as Calliope Mori now. She's like huge.
It's a very difficult job to go back from when you're making that level of accolades. But yeah, Valakulema is one of his singles that I've linked. That link down below, not the other one before. I think that just links to the image of it. Sounds so much like an early Mori Calliope record. And you'll be able to hear that kind of energy. So yeah, no, if you're a fan of that specific style of idol music, definitely give Käärijä's wider music a listen to. Very charming man.
Yeah, I want to say just a couple more things about this one.
Yes,
I mean, I'll definitely check out more of his music because I really enjoyed it. I really loved it, and the dancers are all like really, really gorgeous and dressed to do like they are dressed to do a super fancy, nice choreography, and they do a choreography that is like incredibly athletic, but it's also incredibly silly. They keep doing a lot
kind of like wiggling of
the
walking to the side while kind of like pumping the arms back and forth. So funny.
It's just so extremely funny and just like, and again, you want to talk about music they're going to be playing at the gay clubs. Like, this is one.
Like,
this is one.
Because of my hours and the trains that I was taking to get to and from Liverpool meant I didn't really have too much time to fuck around in the city when I was not on shift. But the Friday night, so before finals night, I was like, oh, I finished work early, so I have time to go out and do all the bits and pieces I need to do and then still get back to my hotel without it being too much of a problem. I'm going to go to Liverpool's gay quarter so I can spend some time. It was packed because all the gays came from across the UK to Liverpool and then crammed themselves into the maybe 3 or 4 pubs that they have. It's a much smaller district than the one in Manchester. So it was a bit rammed. But oh my God, the enthusiasm as to which they wanted to go and play Cha Cha Cha. And then once we finished on the finals night and I'd finished my shift, there was like a mini after party with free drinks in the building before everybody like fucked off at like 3 a.m. And the DJ there put on Cha Cha Cha, I think before playing Tattoo. And and I'm not a screaming type. I'm not very much of a screaming person. I'm not a jumping up and down person at gigs either, to be honest, because I'm quite tall and large, so I'll get in the way and I don't want to knock my drink over or anybody else's drink over. But the amount of jumping and screaming I did just to get the remaining tension of that week out, like, oh, I've been doing nothing but working on this for like 2 weeks. I need to scream my lungs out and then immediately go to bed. So the amount of screaming to cha 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 cha. Ugh.
It's just so much fun. And okay, the last note I'll say on this, there's a joke that I have that I saw from my friend Maya, which is they should make a new sexual X.
Oh yeah.
And with I'm glad that I don't need to make the joke of that they should make a new sexual Wario. Because it already exists and it's Käärijä.
Oh yeah. No, I see it. I mean, I would say he maybe has more Waluigi energy, but yes.
They should make a new sexual Waluigi.
There we go.
My latest incarnation of this is they should make a new sexual Tintin.
Oh my God. I mean, that's just every twink I know in the village, to be honest. That's commonplace. But yeah, now I'm just tempted to go and Photoshop this picture of Käärijä we have in the background to make the green purple and put like a big yellow L on it somewhere.
You wouldn't be the first because the joke of like him looking like Wario or Waluigi was circulating through Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Last but not least, to talk about the main acts we're going to be talking about. There are many acts that I would love to go and put time in and talk about, but we don't have time and it's already getting late. But we will talk about the winner of Eurovision 2023 this year, Loreen with Tattoo, being both the first woman to win Eurovision twice.
Yes.
and the second person to win Eurovision twice in general, and now has tied Sweden for the most number of Eurovision wins with Ireland.
And if they win again before Ireland wins again, I will riot. I will riot. Ireland has been robbed for long enough. Sorry.
I mean, Ireland need to be sending better people than the people they sent this year.
Okay. Yes. In fairness, yes, that is on us. That is.
I mean, it was a shit show for so many reasons. We won't dwell on it because A, we don't have time, and B, I don't really want to dwell on this person being gross, but the choreographer for the Wild Youth, I think is the name of the band, had been highlighted as saying a bunch of racist and transphobic things on their Twitter.
Oh!
Yes. To which
didn't know this.
To which when the fan media highlighted that to the Irish Broadcasting and Wild Youth, they were like, that's awful. And, you know, fucking... An anathema to what Eurovision and what we're about. We're firing him immediately and trying to kind of redo our choreography from scratch so he's not involved anymore, which, good, 10 out of 10. You were given the information that this person was problematic and you didn't know. You were like, that's bad, we will fix that, and they fixed it immediately. Good.
The thing is, despite what electoral politics might indicate, Ireland is actually a really progressive country. The problem is that they do not have, like most countries, they do not have good options at the ballot box. But like it's, you know, the transphobia that permeates Britain, and I wouldn't even say it permeates Britain. It permeates all the institutions in Britain, and it's not necessarily there at the ground level until people get radicalized by the institutions. But like, in Ireland, well, transphobia exists, TERFs exist. The mainstream feminist movement has, for a long time, actively fought against TERFs as an imported idea, essentially imported by the Brits, because the Irish feminist movement did not, like, aside from like a few isolated people, the Irish feminist movement did not historically have TERFs in any part of it, because when TERFs were basically sort of being invented in countries like America and Britain in the 70s and 80s, in Ireland it was more about like, hey, can we get birth control or abortion or you know, gay rights, or like many more basic rights. And that created a broader coalition of people, to the point that when trans people prominently came into the table, feminists were like, yeah, like why would we want to oppress trans people when because a lot of trans people in Ireland would tell you that, like, when they would meet an Irish feminist, I'm sorry that I'm going on a tangent.
No, you're right.
The Irish part is coming out. They would tell you that, like, maybe an Irish cis feminist would be ignorant of trans issues,
but not malicious.
No, because they would be because they could put two and two together and we'll go like, okay, Ireland is oppressive to LGBT to gay, lesbian, and bi people. Ireland is oppressive towards women, and here's another gender/sexual minority. Of course, they're like, it's logical that they're going to be oppressed. It's obvious that they're going to be oppressed, you know, because people like them are oppressed in Ireland. That's like an obvious thing that Irish feminist understands, without any of the pollution of the TERF ideology that's been like permeating these islands and getting worse and worse and worse. And now there is a problem of TERFs. It is growing in Ireland. It is concerning, but that is like a basic thing. And this is why, at the end of this, I'm gonna just say a couple of nice words about Graham. But we're gonna get to that. But yeah, that's where that comes from. So it's very likely that the band saw all this like racist and transphobic stuff. They were like, oh no, this guy, we do not have anything to do with this. Fuck this guy.
No, it was actually super impressive at the speed and decisiveness that they made that decision about. Love a nation that can recognize any degree of intersectionality, to be honest with you. But
like, it's not perfect. Ireland is not perfect. Okay? I'm not trying to say it's a progressive paradise. It's I had to move away because I couldn't afford rent. You know, it's not great.
but there are some issues that they're better about than average in other places. I would say. Yeah. But again, not dwelling on this, but just to highlight the backstory so there's context here. Because one of the things that the choreographer was being transphobic about was a person who was a criminal. who just happened to be trans, unrelated things. There are minorities who could potentially be bad people. They exist. That doesn't mean that means you can be awful to minorities. An obvious thing to say, but still. Eventually, J.K. Rowling and her group of flying monkeys got hold of this and basically,
of course,
sicked them onto this band of otherwise perfectly nice lads who don't want a transphobe doing their choreography or a racist doing their choreography. And so that became the whole back and forth about that performance, right? Unfortunately, Ireland's performance is also really bad. The song is not very good. The costumes were not very good. Factoring in the choreography obviously had to be revised at the last minute, so we're not going to factor that in. The lead, singer, who isn't actually the lead singer of the band, mind you. That's the keyboardist, but they needed to put the keyboardist behind the keyboard. So they were like, well, we'll just put this guy as the lead singer instead, even though he's not the strongest singer in the group. In spangly gold, jumpsuit that was too tight. So on the broadcast live, because they'd performed it on stage multiple times, but the one that's actually recorded to tape, as it were, and was broadcast internationally, gave him a gigantic moose knuckle.
Either way, we're
and on that, thank you for the follow, Commie Burn. Hopefully that wasn't the. Hopefully this man's unreal camel toe was not the.
I've never heard that term before.
Yeah, the male equivalent of a camel toe, a moose knuckle. A standing timing, Commie Bird, thank you.
Timing.
So bad that the kind of screen cap of the performance happens to be from an angle where somebody's waving a flag and it's in the way of his crotch so you can't see it. So in all respects, that performance was a shit show. Oh my God! Thank you for the follow, Malila. It's been forever. Hello, welcome. For those who do not know, this is such a wild conversation for people to be joining in on. I'm so sorry. For those who don't know, I'm your androgynous AI game show host in the future, the Neoncaster tabletop RPG designer, tabletop RPG designer, streamer, voice actor, and general internet ne'er-do-well. I'm here with my lovely co-host and fellow VTuber Maru de Cinco, talking about Eurovision and talking about the lead singer of Ireland's gigantic camel toe before he was kicked out from the semi-finals.
God.
So there were many reasons why that performance was bad, is what I'm saying. Unfortunately, there is a subsection of the internet that think that the performance was bad and they failed for an entirely different reason, and that's not why. We won't dwell on it, but I needed to
We won't dwell on that.
I needed to let people know about the gold spangly camel toe. Anyway.
Yes. But yeah, welcome Raiders. Welcome to the Eurovision post-mortem.
I need to ask before we go and talk about Loreen. Malula, did you happen to watch Eurovision? And who was your favorite? I need to know. But the winner, who's won previously, one of the few people to win twice, has a really bizarre staging that I would describe as the toaster press.
Yeah. People are calling it the what's it called? The commentators were calling it the waffle press.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah,
very much so.
The waffle press. She got waffled. She got waffled, Jerry.
And,
she got waffled.
I mentioned previously about the way that they do the staging of moving the props in and out because they use the LEDs on the floor to mark the space. One of the restrictions about staging is that there's a limit. They can't permanently suspend something from the ceiling. So they have all the lights and cameras suspended up there, but they can't suspend anything else. I did, but it was so out there that on a lot of TVs and different pubs, so I saw a lot of it muted, purely on looks. Oh, the fabulous military stars act with the missiles, Croatia. Yes, they remove those military styles and perform the last verse in their underwear. Yes, worth watching. But yes, the initial intent was to have the waffle press suspended in the air, and she's standing on it in between the bottom and the top layer. And the organizers were like, "That would pull the rafters down. You can't do that. The bottom of that box is so heavy." So
God.
what they need to do in between acts, because they're changing the staging out while they are like running the little VT, the little video, like showing the new act coming up, or like an additional kind of like a little aside talking about the history of Eurovision. That all is done to give the stagehands more time to swap the props out. So what they did is that they wheeled in the top of the sandwich press, rigged it to the ceiling, suspended it in the air. Then wheeled in the base, which Loreen is lying on top of. Hi, Satirist Strategy. Loxley also in the house. Everybody raiding at the 11th hour. Thank you so much for raiding.
Welcome, raiders.
Welcome. Everybody from the Satirist Strategy knows who I am. I ain't going to introduce myself a second time. I'm being lazy.
I'll introduce myself a new time.
Absolutely, do so.
Hi, guys. No. Hi, I'm Maru de Cinco, hero of hope, tomboy of tomorrow. I am I'm not a TTRPG VTuber at all. I am a gunpla builder, robot lover, girl lover, because I'm a gay lady.
She's a triple threat, everybody out there.
Triple threat. And I fucking love Eurovision. That's why I'm here. Because Casper and I we needed to talk about Eurovision. I am also a girl robot lover. If a girl is also a robot, I also love her as well.
It's simple.
Just
the Venn diagram is very easy to understand.
I love girls. I love robots. I love robot girls.
Honestly,
Transformers, great example. Fantastic. Love her.
It is 11:30. I can't let us do this. The Venn diagram. No. It's very funny. But yes, she's wheeled in on the base of the sandwich press, and then the top is like lowered from the ceiling back onto her.
Wow.
So
very scary.
Yeah,
it's scary.
It's a little claustrophobic. And this happens in a good minute before whatever video is playing is over. So she just has to kind of lie in sandwich jail for like a minute.
Wow.
And she's just like, because I was able to see the semi-final 1 private performance in the stadium, which was great. I was so glad I got to see any of it live, actually. And she's just kind of like waving, wiggling her little stone talons around while she's in there.
God.
And in that way, I find her hilarious. She has a very dry, hippie sense of humor, which I appreciate.
Oh, absolutely, because she kept talking about like meditation and yoga in the interviews, and I was like, I know your type. I know your type, but not in a bad way, not in an insufferable way.
Even in the winners final. So after each of the live streams, our job was to wheel over the journalists and media through to the media conference room, which is down a hall, up a flight of stairs, down another hall, up an escalator, across the bridge to the next building and to the right. Plenty of places where they could get distracted or lost or see a celebrity and want to interview them or try and wander to an area where they shouldn't. And it's basically like guiding them like they're on a school field trip in a museum and we don't want to lose anybody.
God. Good grief.
And when it was the final, everybody was like almost preparing to run there. And I'm like, you don't need to run. We're going to get there before she gets there. You're not going to lose any time with her. We need to get you all settled before we can get her in anyway. I'm going to walk slowly and calmly this route and you're going to stay behind me. And I'm like, and I'm saying this out loud, jokingly. It's at this point 1 a.m, so we're all a bit loopy at this point anyway. And I'm like, I can hear you running in the back. I can hear you running and you don't need to. Please stop running. And we get there. I get everyone seated. I'm like, I did a good job today. And then she's going to do her interview and it's going to be half an hour. And then I get to go to the after party and drink until 3 a.m. She was 45 minutes late.
Oh, God.
I was so angry. I think in the Discord, semi-deliriously, I've mentioned, like, nobody can find Loreen. I can't even. just kind of like, this is his last task I need to do, and then I can go home. And she just was nowhere to be found. I think she was meditating and eating a chocolate bar, which... I'm glad she's found her way to celebrate. Also... How dare you? How dare you? But yeah, in that interview, she was kind of talking about the blend of spirituality and music for her and how that kind of fuels her creativity and everything. And that's great. That's great. I can think of a list of very, very, very good musicians who have been intertwining music and their spirituality for a very long time, who I think are better than her. She's not the first to do it, but I'm glad that she's so at peace with herself, I suppose.
So my main comments about Loreen is that so I forgot that she had won Eurovision before. Was it 2012 or 2011? 2012. It was 2012, which was the year that Jedward participated for the second time with Waterline and did really badly, even though their song was a banger. Now, starting with the song. Because I want to not be shallow. I want to create the illusion for the the twitch.tv / the Neoncaster audience. I want to create the illusion that I'm not shallow. So I can start with the song. The song is a banger, I think. Is it the best song in the world? Is it my favorite song in the contest? No. Definitely a banger. Was definitely going to play in the gay clubs. Again, that criteria. Definitely going to play in the gay clubs, no matter if it won or not, because it's a nice kind of like pop diva kind of banger. You know, it's very anthemic. It has all that strength. He has an amazing voice. The staging is very iconic. While I'm not going to say it's the most... It doesn't look to me like it would have been the most interesting to see live, but it was very well shot for online. But I was just thinking throughout it, and I've had it on loop in the background while we've been chatting, and I'm just like, it looks great online, but it might have been a bit boring in person.
It was very strange to watch in person. So when the toaster press is near closed, if you're not close to the stage, you can't see her because they're like blowing dry ice as well. So it's just, ooh, look at the singing cube. Very fun. Yeah. And then it opens up and she's wiggling around inside of it and you're like, oh, yeah, I get it, cool. Yeah. She describes Tattoo as the moonlight where Euphoria was the sunlight, if you need a better kind of like reference for the differences between those two performances.
Well, I'll be just to get the extremely shallow bit out of the way. I saw her and I was like, she's got abs. I'm in trouble. And that was kind of like I was like, she's extremely good singer and performer, but I was like, damn.
She's in good shape.
Damn, I'm gay. I was like, I'm gay. I'm very, very gay.
As I think I said earlier, but friend of the show, Ruben, said that her winning was a win for MILFs everywhere. So
yeah, that's the thing. I wanted to address this because I'm gonna break character for a second, by which I mean I'm gonna say something that I say every couple of weeks. She's younger than me.
Hey, this just means that you're in your era.
By 6 months. She's younger than me by 6 months. So, and I ain't no MILF. I ain't nobody's mother.
I mean, I think these days it's very much a mindset.
MILF is a state of mind. I also said on Twitter, well, I wasn't like fully live tweeting everything that happened. I was just like tweeting anything that came to my mind that I was like, haha, this would be a funny tweet. So I tweeted like 5 or 6 times throughout. But when she won, I said it's a win for Sweden. It's a win. I think it's something like it's a win for Sweden. It's a win for fans of abs. It's a win for win for fans of feet. She accepted the award barefoot, which I was like, what?
There is a historical thing, you know, when people kind of going like, what does it make to make a Eurovision song? Are there trends in between and stuff? And there is apparently a reasonable precedent of winners who have been barefoot There is apparently a trend of that. So either as superstition or to kind of fill a tradition of Eurovision that has been a relatively common thing for a lot of performers, actually.
Wild.
So yeah, no, it's regardless of what gender you're into, you can have that need met at some particular performance of Eurovision, I suppose.
Yes, exactly.
On that note, are there any other like 1 or 2 sentence descriptions about any other performances you want to raise before we close out? Oh, you had some other thoughts because you wanted to talk about Graham Norton as well.
I have a couple. I have a few brief thoughts. A few brief things to get off my chest. I'll start short. I'll start very quickly. Fuck the king. Fuck anything to do with the royals connected to Eurovision. I think I can't remember exactly, but there was something that they did either in the semis or the final, and I think you might know better than me.
Not really as part of any major staging. I do believe like Kate Middleton was like on piano during one of the opening segments of the final. But I don't think they did like a God Save the King or anything like that. Yeah.
No,
Kate...
but wasn't there some connection? Didn't they show up I think they showed up very briefly in one of the between act segments that showed
yes.
in the UK.
So to kind of like open, so when they had finished putting in all the kind of like seating and staging and lighting and everything, there was a TV spot with Prince Charles who showed up to the arena and hit a funny little button that basically said, hey, the arena is open for Eurovision, like a week or 2 before production properly started, which feels more like a point of obligation rather than necessarily a willingness for inclusion.
I understand that, but I don't have to like it.
That's fair. That is very fair.
I don't have to like it or accept it because I like or accept no monarch.
I don't think there was any specific statement from any performers, which I think is probably the most important thing, right? It would be different if fucking San Marino's entry peaked Jax showed up and was kind of like, oh yes, we've come to the UK because we've wanted to go and meet the king. We love the monarchy. But that would be very different.
But of course.
Yeah. But no, I get what you mean. Fuck the king. This makes sense.
So yeah, fuck the king. So that was number 1. Number 2, this is a brief observation, and this is something that might have escaped other people, but of course, lived in Ireland for a decade. This cannot escape me. So. It was really funny. So for those of you who might not have been watching, between the acts, the classic Eurovision thing is like between the acts they will maybe show you like the country that a cool place in the country where they're from. And in the last few years they've done, let's show you a cool place in the country that hosts and a cool place in the country that is next, right? And that is a cool thing. And of course, this year, because it was like Ukraine and Britain.
Yeah, they did 3. They did the UK, Britain, and the home country. Yeah.
Ukraine,
Ukraine, Britain, and the home country. I'm tired. Sorry.
Specifically, it's very important that now that I specifically say it's not Britain, it's UK, because the bit that I'm going to talk about is Northern Ireland. So they put street art, and it was like street art from Ukraine, street art from Belfast, Northern Ireland, and street art from whatever country it was. I can't remember. But if you know anything about Northern Ireland politics and culture, the murals that they showed were completely innocuous. Well, not innocuous, but they were just like street art, just like generally beautiful street art. But those are not the murals that Belfast is known for. Belfast is famous for having sectarian murals that are about, oh, this person died in this, from both sides of the conflict. Would have big murals inside of houses commemorating people jailed or people killed and stuff like this. And it's a very, very thorny issue. And so, like, I was talking to my friend Sarah, who's from the north. And I was saying, I just have the feeling that if that cameraman had walked around the corner, they would have seen some street art that they could not show on British television. You know what I mean? So I was like, so the joke was like, I'm really glad Eurovision supports a united Ireland. But anyway, so that was another one. Yeah. My third observation this one actually can give room for a bit of conversation, but it's Graham Norton. I love Graham Norton. Possibly one of the very few big name figures in the BBC that has stood against transphobia openly, and not just with platitudes. And this is what I want to give Graham a lot of credit. He's not just said, "Oh, trans people are okay, trans rights, whatever," which would be enough, honestly. Like in the current climate, it would be quite enough. But he actually went along to say, to actually debunk the way these people think, to actually say this is incorrect. What the fuck are you saying that like trans people are taking over? What the hell is this? Like basically, and I gotta say, it's probably because he's Irish. Because Irish LGBT community is kind of cool like that a lot of time. Not great. Still have lost a lot of problems. There's a lot of issues in the Irish gay scene, but there is an aspect of like the intrinsic part of trans people in that community for forever essentially. And Graham, being the man of the age that he is, knows this clearly. Even though he's been a major celebrity for a long time now, he knows where he's from, and he's from Cork.
No, Miss Hyde kind of points out they do show the street art in UK TV in general. The Eurovision tries to keep apolitical as possible. We did talk about this a little bit earlier in the stream, actually, about the lines that the EBU will draw in terms of what they will and won't show. And I guess there must have been a discussion about that and what they won't show. But also, to that note, the amount of pro-queer representation in the entire production itself, especially as somebody who is working behind the scenes, because that could be something that could be just platitudes that they would put on TV, being like, "Oh, we all work together," and then behind the scenes not have any of that at all. But I can say de facto, everybody who was working on that show was a member of the queer umbrella and trans embracing the entire time, both the performers and the general crew, and it was fucking excellent. Especially since within the BBC that can be an issue in some spaces. Tim Davie actually showed up on the last couple of days, the current director for the BBC, to I think interview some of the people who were doing the internships like me, and sadly, it was like during a morning, like 11:30 till 12:30. And I didn't have a shift until like 3 or 4 p.m. So I had no reason to be on site that early in the day. But I would have loved the opportunity to go to the Director General and be kind of like, oh man, I really enjoy the kind of like unabashed uplifting of queer and trans people on this production from all areas in a way that the BBC these days never does, and then just stare at him for 5 minutes and then go home.
Absolutely.
It can be a little difficult. This is me editorializing for a second. Bear with me, and then we'll wrap up the show. Thank you for being patient with me while I mention this. It can be a little frustrating when one head of a media mega corporation, Hydra, does something that is problematic, and then the wider populace, who maybe do not understand how the company works or just doesn't understand nuance in general, will be like, oh my god, this entire corporation is filled full of transphobes, don't support any of the work that they do, ignore them, burn anything that you own that result. And I'm like, that's actually super not very helpful, because there's loads of queer people who work in other parts of that corporation that are trying to make the content that does actually feature the queer, trans and gender non-conforming people that you do want to see. And they need money to be able to do that job and do that job properly. And in those areas, it's actually pretty easy to do that job. I was talking to relatively early on. This is an episode that hasn't aired yet. It might have aired now, actually, since we're in the middle of spring. I went to my boss at the time and said, hey, I want one of the new characters for the show that we're working on to be non-binary. And he was like, yeah, do it. And I'm like, do I get to cast it? And he was like, yeah, do it. And then we cast a non-binary voice actor, and it was great, and it was easy, and everyone loved it. So, you know,
that is great.
Easy to do from the ground up. if you do it from the ground up as part of your mission statement. Actually, really easy.
Yes. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Before we go, I know that you want to wrap up. I have one last point.
No, go for it.
I have one last point. This is one thing that I noticed I understood halfway through, and it's that, you know, here's the thing that bothered me. Mm-hmm. Britain, sorry, I keep saying Britain. The UK was hosting Eurovision 2023 in place of Ukraine because of the war, as basically as a gesture, as a kind gesture. And I felt like, despite all of the Ukrainian flags on display in the logo and everything, this was not Ukraine's Eurovision. This was Britain's Eurovision. This was the UK's Eurovision. Like, there was I think one of the presenters was Ukrainian, I believe.
Yes.
But in terms of like most of the presenters and the entire thing, the way that the halftime show was highlighting like a lot of like, you know, the Beatles and stuff like that. And I just felt that it was not. It felt a bit cheeky.
A counterpoint.
But also, counterpoint.
So all of the general visual design was done by a Ukrainian company. The opening of the final actually highlighted a whole bunch of previous Ukrainian acts from across the years, including some of their previous winners. And the lighting and rigging teams, so the people that put all the cameras and did the camera programming, as well as, you know, doing all of the shit like being able to suspend bits and pieces, was a Ukrainian AV team. So even though they not sure about how I felt about Zelensky not being able to do a speech. Yeah, that's one of the weird pieces of fine lines of where they draw about who gets to comment and who doesn't in those things, and that I can't really speak on, because that's an EBU thing. The people who own Eurovision as an enterprise rather than the people who are producing the show, they get to have says on that kind of thing. But
of course,
they tried genuinely pretty fucking hard to split the amount of load done between, or at least the directorial input between Ukrainians and the UK as far as the production has gone. It was kind of raised as an idea of like when Ukraine is in a position to host things again, whether they might hold an event like in like lieu, in the same way that we did the event in lieu of the Ukraine. Whether there would be a similar collaboration, say theoretically and hopefully even, hopefully and aspirationally, by this time next year, the Ukraine is in a position where they're willing and able to hold a Eurovision, and whether they would be holding it, but it would be a collaboration between them and Sweden. And that was pretty well entertained. Yeah. Obviously, nothing is confirmed or anything, but it's one of those things that people are really up for. So Ukraine can have a Eurovision instead. I think people are really open to that.
Okay, no, that's good, because I gotta say, without knowing the behind the scenes, I wouldn't say I did miss the opening because I was late at the party. I do. From my point of view, as an audience, as someone that watched it, that's how it felt. It felt very much like this is the UK's Eurovision. You know what I mean? That's kind of how it felt for a lot of it. Ukraine
could probably win the Eurovision on their own right in other years where they're not having a moment of like geopolitical warfare.
Absolutely.
The UK probably will not. So
exactly.
I think there is also definitely an undercurrent of like the UK is never going to host this shit again, so we're going to go all out and do a whole bunch.
I get that.
And Liverpool itself actually had a whole bunch of live events. These are again, this is all stuff that isn't on TV, so your feeling about how the live version of the final went out definitely makes sense, and I don't necessarily disagree with you on that. But yeah, there was a whole bunch of live, like inflatable sculptures that played Ukrainian music throughout the 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
They made sure to have a whole bunch of live events of traditional Ukrainian music and dance that was available to be accessed. There was an entire like educational program as well of being able to speak basic Ukrainian and learn about culture that was distributed to schools across Liverpool. So
that's really cool.
Yeah. It was genuinely, and this is I think one of the two big takeaways for me personally was how when it was a collaboration between two different countries and the amount that people tried genuinely put in non-ironic effort into making sure it could be the best production it could be, from both the performers, the people putting on the show, and actually the journalists attending as well. And I really respect that, where people all
that is really good
willingly collaborated to go and make some real fucking good art.
And that is like see, that's the thing, that is really good to hear, because like obviously it's very different when you're actually there. Like I knew that there was stuff going on there. Do you want to know how I knew that there was stuff going on outside of the actual semis and the final?
Sure.
Do you want to know how I learned? Jedward said they were performing on Twitter
at the Eurovision Village, and you were like, "Oh, bet, yeah."
Yeah, and I'm like, "Oh man, I have DM'd with Jedward several times, by the way."
Heck yeah!
By which I mean they've DM'd me first, not in my VTuber account, but in my real life account, because they're kind of bigger now for basically because they're now the darlings of the Irish left, because when they were stuck in America during lockdown, and when all the BLM stuff happened, they basically came out as like huge anti-fascist, pro-BLM, pro-trans, and they
their
never
Twitter
stopped.
is amazing. They tweet like the best of them.
And now they basically hone in on Irish turfs. They're fantastic. I love it. But for many years, when people already knew them for Eurovision and they didn't talk about that kind of stuff yet, like I was one of the few people that was like, I like Jedward and I don't care, because people made fun of me for it. And yeah, they're cheesy, they're dumb, they're silly. You know, they're not meant to be serious. They are silly. They know it. And they would DM me like, hey, you know, whatever, just because I tweeted about Jedward, and we have a quick little back and forth. This happened like 2 or 3 times. So yeah, I really love them. I really love them. But yeah, no, that's how I found out there were other things. So it's really good to hear that there was like this entire like program, really. And I kind of wish that showed a bit more in the show.
Yeah, I can feel that.
Open, in a more audience-facing way, rather than just. But it's great to know that in terms of the local level and the backstage production aspect, I am really happy to hear this. Like this is actually making me really happy, because my reaction watching the show was like, well, this is something else the Brits have taken over, you know?
I see.
How on brand, you know?
Yeah, I think it's one of, especially if you're in that position organizing all of this stuff, and you can kind of see a more even split when you look at it from the really pulled back view, and then you're not seeing the forest for the trees when you look at a specific piece. How evenly split is that in its representation? I get you.
Yeah.
One last thought from me, and then we're going to be doing a little bits of wrap up, is actually while I attended and worked on that event as ostensibly a training thing, these kind of like internship programs that the BBC does, called Hot Shoes. Very worth doing, actually, if you work for the BBC and getting on them, because this is a really good way of working in departments that aren't the ones that you normally work in, and that's a good way to build up skills. At least in my current position, because I've been working for the BBC for now almost 10 years. It's currently around 8.
Wow. I have never held a job that long. I'm 40.
I'm blessed. Some of that was working in London, and then I moved up to Manchester and have been working with the Biebers as long as I've been living up here. And so I've gained a lot of skills and done a lot of things, and I still feel like I'm learning and growing, mostly just because my bosses are older than me, so they still treat me like I'm like 22.
Oh, God.
I'm 32. So doing that work experience with Eurovision, I was like, I didn't necessarily learn much in the roles that I was given, right? The responsibilities that they gave me were important, but they were not especially like challenging. And that's fine. I can let that go. It did mean that I got to see Eurovision from the inside, which is something I would never get to see otherwise. So I'm not going to be too sour grapes about that. But what I think what I think I did take away from this, because at the end of last year, I think I pushed myself quite hard to work on my kind of like streaming game, or just my general content creator brand, and skill up in that kind of way and become more known than what I did, and applied more in that way. And it didn't actually in some ways pull off as well as I would like. I definitely learned and grew, but I was not seeing the kind of like a Cinderella fairy tale story of success that, you know, showbiz proclaims itself to be able to give you. So at the end of the year and at the start of January, I was feeling super burned out and feeling like the work I was doing wasn't going anywhere or wasn't reaching anyone. And I did a big step back and cut back in the amount of like content creation I was doing, because I was genuinely working on my own health for a bit. And seeing all these people work on trying to make something good, even the media trying to shoot what they can so when they get back can edit some dope ass content where they've got to speak to all of these artists about all sorts of things. And I was like, yeah, actually that's really inspiring. Watching such an international group of people be really enthusiastic about wanting to put on a really good show collectively and working collectively to make something great. And I'm like, I want to harness that energy again. So I'm actually energized again to give a shit about making content. I was on my anti-influencer arc, and I still think I am. I don't think I really want to be an influencer so much as a known artist. I think we could ask for that much of our lives as creators. When I'm done, when I officially retire making shit TM, which might result on me dying. I think I would have to die to stop making things.
Yes.
But when that eventually stops happening, as long as people are like, I encountered that art that they made, and it might have been bad, but I encountered it and it left a memory on me, then that's all. All I need is that. I've regained that motivation.
Yes.
Which is,
I'm
I
really
think, probably the
glad.
best fucking outcome I could get from working on that for 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, that is like that's really, really good, because like it's so easy to get burned out on this, because it can be such a grind. You know, being in the content creation scene, just in general, not even just VTubing. VTubing has its own specific, like, it has its own specific issues in terms of that. But at the same time, just in general, content creation is just really, really hard, because like very long ago, I was reading by long ago I mean in the 90s, I was reading a review of Neon Genesis Evangelion, and it's very, very on brand for me.
Hey, yeah,
And
absolutely.
The writer said that nobody has ever found a winning formula to make sure that a creative product succeeds. Like, this is what, like, yes, you can have extremely cynically made stuff that is successful, and you can have extremely earnest stuff that is successful, and yes, obviously privilege and money and capitalism all play a game into that, right? But in terms of like what you're creating, just like the thing that you're making, like, there is no set formula for it, because if that formula, whenever a tiny bit of that formula is figured out, it gets completely just like taken over and oversaturated, to the point that anybody that is like a developing talent or even a really good talent can't really stand out, because it gets oversaturated. That's what's happened with VTubing, right? Like, I would argue there's a lot of like early VTubers who are very, very big now who are good at what they do. And I'm not talking about huge people. I'm not talking about like people with 1 million followers. I'm talking about people with like 20,000, right? They're very good at what they do, but they're not necessarily better than the person that's struggling with under 200. You know what I mean? And I feel that this kind of grind because of capitalism. It's kind of it takes the creativity and the love out of art a lot of the time, and it's really hard because, like, for example, a lot of us, like I have definitely made it very clear that I would love for streaming, for being a VTuber to be like my full-time job, but I also know it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
And so, I've kind of accepted that, and it's just like part of my life. It's just something that I enjoy doing, but it's like that. So I can totally understand. That was a long way of saying, like, the burnout is real. I'm really glad that you got this fire in you once again. And I'm happy to talk about this, by the way, any other time. This is a subject that I'm very interested to talk about, like creative burnout and like content creation and stuff like that. So
yeah. I'll mention this very briefly and then go because it's relevant. In that kind of like space of like collective, like working collectively on stuff, I was kind of like looking at the Gatai the Live and the kind of like collection of people who are all passionate about a similar thing, and you do your own things but also collaborate together and stuff. I'm like, that rules.
Thank you.
I've been talking to Loxley, Satire Strategy, on a number of occasions, being kind of like, I want to do that, but for like tabletop VTubers really badly. It's something that's currently in the pipeline of arranging. Finding that Venn diagram that also is in a UK-friendly time zone is actually surprisingly hard.
That is difficult. I mean, half of Gata the Live is not. Like, we have, like, there's me and Captain Hurricane, and then you have like Sono in the Eastern time zone, and then Choo Choo in the Pacific. We almost never do stuff with Choo Choo as a group, not because we don't wanna.
Just the times never line
moves,
up. Yeah.
Yeah, also Choo Choo moves like sometimes slightly in different circles and doesn't use Discord very much. That is also a part of it. But like Choo Choo is kind of like off, kind of doing their own thing, and then like the time zones just make it extremely difficult. But yeah, no, Gata the Live is something that we brought together because basically we were all like sharing the fact that we're all like, VTubers over 30. Sure. Essentially, and we're all people that have been around the block a few times. Either people like Choo 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 knows like the entire history of like American and Hawaiian, like American and specifically Hawaiian and West Coast like anime subcultures and tokusatsu subcultures and BL subcultures and conventions and stuff. Sono was involved in a lot of that in the Eastern Seaboard. Cap knows a lot about that from the UK side. I've moved in a million different scenes. Like the Argentinian anime scene, the punk scene, queer scene, all this stuff. And we're people that have seen a lot. And last year was like the year of, VTuber, large-scale VTuber scene drama is not going away anytime soon. But last year was the perspective I get from people that were doing it before me, because I only started in late 2021, is that last year was when that bubble that people were like, oh, the VTuber scene is a community and we're all friends and everyone is friendly and lovely and wholesome. That like, it's not like that was like there wasn't any problems before, obviously, but last year was when everybody realized, no, we're not our friends. We're not on the scene. There's a lot of abuse. There's a lot of this. There's a lot of that. Even in the big corporations, there's a lot of problems going on because like loads of graduations suddenly and stuff like that. And so like, I feel like last year was when like things became kind of more cynical in the scene a bit. And we were in the chat. Like we were like in a group chat just like talking about it, just venting, because like it's the kind of thing where we didn't want to put stuff on Twitter because we didn't want to like...
You don't want to have to then do a tweet longer afterwards apologizing for getting feelings hurt.
You don't want to intervene in stuff that is like larger scene stuff when you don't feel, sometimes you intervene when you have a take or when you have something important to say that's relevant to you. But a lot of times we just needed to vent at other grown-ups that got it, because I'm sorry, a lot of VTubers are kids.
Yes.
And I also mean the ones working for the big corpos. They are kids.
They would prefer to work with kids rather than work with older talent for a wide variety of reasons that we won't go into today.
So that was what got us started, and then I was just like, we should have a group. We should just do a group. Why not? And just do things together, because we're doing things together already anyway, and it just worked. And we're people on a very similar vibe, other than the fact that Captain Hurricane is a Disney adult and he will pay for those crimes, you know, like. So yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm done rambling about. I'm done propping up my own group.
That level of I guess kind of like finding a. Some people will be like, oh, VTubing isn't an art form. You're still performing. You count as being an artist. It's fine, whatever.
It's performance. It's a performance. That's what a lot of people don't get.
So in that kind of way, that is an aspiration for this year. There's a number of projects that I want to go and do this year. I'm gonna link Get Either Live's Twitter in chat so people can go follow. But yeah, that's one of the things I want to do this year is form a VTuber tabletop collective. I have a collective of tabletop artists that work with me on stuff, because you know there are people that are in my tabletop RPGs and things like that. But like broadening that out to the wider space and trying to connect with more people. I'm a very insular person a lot of the time. So to try and make that effort to kind of branch out and connect with new people is the thing I want to do this year. Right, that is tangentially a lot of stuff to do with Eurovision and not. But thank you so much for thank you so much for that. This is it. It says just chatting just below us. Am I not just chatting? I might just be chatting bullshit, but I am chatting all the same. But with that, we're gonna wrap it up for this evening. Thank you so much for joining me on this call, Maru. Thank you very much. I hope you've also enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me. It was fantastic. I love talking about Eurovision. I don't get to talk about Eurovision as often as I want to with people that know more about it and can teach me stuff. I had a friend that would teach me stuff about Eurovision. She moved to the other side of the world. We don't really talk anymore. You know, we lost contact way before the Pando, and she was like my main. She and my friend Bank Holiday Tuesday, who's one of my chatters, who's a good IRL friend. Only people I talk to about Eurovision, really. And so it's wonderful to talk to someone so knowledgeable and that has such an amount to say, not just about the show, but also about like the musical aspect, the cultural aspect. Was fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. I'm glad I could go and give that insight. I can't wait to spend a good chunk of my time tomorrow morning clipping and bookmarking all of this so people can actually navigate it. But it's going to be sick. Wonderful. It's going to be sick. Right. Passing on the love, we're going to be passing it on to a fellow voice actor and VTube rigger. I don't know. I don't think he VTubes himself at the moment though. Spectral Fusion, or Oz, who is currently doing a last hurrah run through of Breath of the Wild before he picks up the new one.
Love it.
And I adore his content very much, so we're going to go and raid and go and say hi. We're starting that raid now. I have been your androgynous android game show host from the future caster. This has been the Nooncaster Twitch channel, and we will see you probably next Thursday for some more Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. But until then, we'll see you soon. Farewell, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Goodbye.